Ooh, welcome to Best in Faction.
The Next Generation.
A podcast about capsizing letters of the Greek alphabet.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And that joke took me a minute to get, but it's very funny. Welcome back, boys. We're here. It's time for a long-awaited tournament review. We've been doing too much nonsense, too much silliness, too much talking about things that actually matter. It's time to get down to brass tacks and the bread and butter of Best in Faction, the Next Generation, which is that it is time for a tournament review, and it's a classic. We're going this week up to Tau Tipping, one of the premier events of the Pacific Northwest, being hosted by the lovely Jason Berg. You'll hear more about it in a minute. We played some games. We won some games. We may or may not have lost a couple of games, but don't worry, we wouldn't tell you if we did. But before we jump into any of the nitty-gritty of what we took and how it went, we got to check in with the boys. How we doing today, guys? How's your week been? Start off with Lucas. How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. The biggest thing that's happened in the last week is just I've done an absolute ton of hobbying. Got back to working on some Chaos characters for the hell of it, so made a little more progress on Abaddon. I've been working on my pigs, which have been a daunting project for a while, so got the checkerboard all blocked out on those, which is great. So I'm just loving the hobby game right now, and just in general, 9th edition, having a lot of fun with Warhammer. And yeah, definitely sad to see it go. I feel like there's Tyler was mentioning this morning on our morning walk, was there's a little bit of doom and gloom around 9th edition in preparation for 10th, and I definitely understand the excitement. I'm very much looking forward to 10th, but 9th has been a great edition, and I'm having a ton of fun with it right now, so I'm a little bit sad to see it go. But overall, just really enjoying how things are going right now. Even feeling super great. I got my new mug, which the boys are happy about. You know, the Bush Senior I should have pulled out mug. Nice. You love to see it. Life is good. How are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well, and I really hope you wash that mug. Yeah, it's been great. We had a tournament. It was super great. Like, I mean, we'll talk about Tau tipping, but like seeing pretty much everyone from like our, local PDX friend group, Washington friend group, and meeting new people, seeing everyone there. It was good to have a tournament again. Seeing as I couldn't really like participate in Rosehammer fully. So feels good to be back. Yeah, haven't really been able to practice that much this week, but got some practice potentially lined up today and tomorrow. So looking forward to that. How about you, Tyler? How you been doing?
Yeah, I'm doing real good. Similarly, had a ton of fun this weekend. And so that was really enjoyable. Been getting some good practice in, playing around with a couple different GSC ideas. Look forward to hearing more about those in future episodes. I mean, if we cover, we'll see when 10th comes out. Very excited about 10th. Very excited about new NIDs. But like Lucas said, I am loving the game as it exists right now. Like, there's obviously some issues and whatnot, but I'm already having a great time. So I don't need it to end anytime soon. Yeah, very good stuff. Cool. Well, we got a whole lot to cover and not a ton of time in which to do it. So we're probably going to jump right on into the main event today, just talking about our event from this past weekend, which is the Tau Tipping GT 2023, taking place April 20th and 30th in Hoquiam, Washington. Nick, why don't you give us a rundown on the deets for this event, as it were?
All right, tournament details. So Tau Tipping ended up being a 59-person 5-round GT. We were playing with the Ark's Omen mission pack, and we were playing with the data slate. I mean, this is pretty far after the data slate came out, but some tournaments have, like, long rules cutoffs. Ours does not. So we were playing with, no Dark Angels, which was nice. Player placed terrain, as is popular over here in the Pacific Northwest, and random pairings within win bracket, and battle point placings for, seeing who wins the tournament. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That brings us on into the event review. This is a Bird event, so we kind of know what we're getting into. But for those of y'all who have not been up to Jason Bird's store, Lion Guard Gaming, up in Hoquiam, Washington, let's do a little bit of review here. Lucas, what'd you think about the event?
That was great. It was fun to go back to a Bird event after, we go up there fairly often, but I think it had been since Laneshmas, since we've been up there for a Jason event. So, great to get to see everyone again, go back to the old store. Just a really comfortable, great event. Nice place. We always kind of joke that everything we need in Hoquiam is just within a little, 1 or 2 block radius, of Bird's store, which is just very convenient and great. We've even found a cool coffee shop there, which we somehow had not found yet. I saw that. But yeah, that place was super sweet. It felt like just a little slice of Portland or Seattle within Hoquiam, which was kind of weird, but very lovely place. And just a great event. Great store, great people. Had a good time.
Oh, Tyler's muted.
Oh, sorry. Anything to add to that, Nick?
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time we'd been in Bird's store was, at least for me, Harbor Heresy, which was end of, or not even end, early September. So it'd been a while. So it was cool to return to a place that felt familiar. Feels like, a second home. Stuff that he's upgraded. I know he's been working a lot on the streaming there. And I have to say, I really like his new streaming setup. The stream room was cool, but it felt a little weird being super closed off from the event. So the stream table being a top table that people can see, and his new camera setup is much, much better. I know in the past people were kind of having a hard time following what was going on in stream games because there wasn't player audio, but now he's got players mic'd up. He's got interviews after. I think if you can just look it up on Twitch, Warbird Battle Labs, it might even also be on YouTube. I was watching some of the post-recorded videos on YouTube. So give him a look. I think some of us are featured on stream. We'll talk about those games when we get to them. So yeah, very high quality setup. I know it's something he'd been working hard on, and it was cool to see it executed well upon.
Yeah, definitely. Could not agree more. It was real fun to have our boy Colton up there, who ran Rosehammer and's been running a lot of our Portland tournaments recently. He had this sort of monkey touch monolith moment of, oh, this is what you guys are on about. And just how cool it is to have a dedicated space with just tables that are 44 by 60, custom height, all super nice with tons of different terrain that is all very pretty and most of it very functional. It's a pretty sweet space. I don't think I've been to a venue that is as well geared for 40K as Birds is. So yeah, very cool stuff. Very great event as always. Let's jump right in and talk about. Oh, we got a lovely photo here of some of those tables. You can see some of them are old size, some of them are new size, but all the mats are new size. We don't play on any taped off mats or anything like that. Yeah, you can see the table that I played round 1 on right here, actually.
Yeah, but there's plenty of space to move around. There's plenty of space to store your stuff off to the side underneath the table. I know he was fiddling around with how many tables to put in this room in particular in order to dampen the noise, and it's very pleasant, not overwhelming. So yeah,
he's got all these sound absorption panels you can kind of see on the back wall there. Those help a lot. This place used to be pretty echoey, and now it's very manageable. So props to Bird for that.
Yep.
Cool beans. And with that being said, let's jump on in to the armies that we're bringing in question, and we'll just go in whatever order we got on the slides here. So I'm up first, talking about the Burning Brood. I had a lot of different ideas about what I wanted to take to this event. I could take Rusted Claw. I could take some of this new Myriad Colt truck hotness with Agile Gorillas. There was a lot of different options. I play tested a bunch of stuff, and at the end of the day, I said, whatever. I'm just going to play the stuff that I know performs really well and focus on execution this event instead of trying to try something crazy and new. Spend a little more time having fun with the homies and a little bit less freaking out about a new build. So if you listen to our Rosehammer episode, this list is, I think, point for point identical. I think I may have changed out my neophyte sergeants might have web pistols now instead of shotguns, whatever. But for those of y'all who have not been following me for that long or just want a quick refresher, we're playing GSC. We've got a myriad Colts Arcs of Omen detachment with industrial affinity, accustomed to turmoil, alien fury, and war convoy. So that's ignoring all hit and ballistic skill modifiers for industrial weapons, baby transhuman army-wide, 4-inch pile-in and consolidate army-wide, and 6-up feel no pain on bikes and vehicles. We got a Primus, who's the warlord and icon ward, 3 squads of 5 acolytes, one of which has excavate, 4 squads of 20 neophytes, all of which have seismics and icons, and then 3 of them have Webbers and shotguns, and one of them has grenade launchers and autoguns. The grenade launcher autogun squad is from every angle, and the other 3 regular squads have perfect ambush, trap sprung, and lying in wait, because everyone needs an upgrade. We got a Kellermorph with Worm Tooth. We got a Nexus with the cranial inlay for that CP regen and double phone call. We've got the Reductus, as pictured here to the right, with Oppressor's Bane to give her crossfire. Please stop taking her without that. She's really bad, and you're probably cheating. You probably are. And the Sanctus with nothing. We got 3 squads of 10 Jackals, one of which has They Came From Below. Each squad has 2 demolition charges, 2 quads with flamers, 2 dudes with grenade launchers, and everybody's, of course, got melee weapons because they're free. And then to round out the squad, we've got an auxiliary support allied detachment of Guard, Brood Brothers, featuring my boy Moses, the Scout Sentinel, with a heavy flamer. And that rounds up 2,000 points, I believe, on the nose of Gene Stealer Colts. Any comments you guys have on this list here? Y'all have played into it plenty and seen it, what it does.
Can you talk a little bit about what that Scout Sentinel do?
Yeah, for sure. I brought this guy up, and initially, and a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense," and then no one seems to be taking him still, which I find interesting. He's 40 points, which is crazy. He does a lot of stuff. The main problem that he is trying to solve is particularly the guard matchup, but this also can, in theory, happen with some Space Marines, though it's less of a big deal there. The concern is that into something like guard, your primary goal is to slam them into their deployment zone and never let them out, which the bikes are really, really good at. But if your guard opponent, for example, brings a couple of Scout Sentinels or a couple squads of Ratlings or whatever other kinds of forward deployers they may have, and obviously there's other armies that do the same thing, but guard is the big one, then you might get completely walled out because you're sitting 9 inches off of their dudes with your pregame moves, even with They Came From Below squad, and suddenly you're not actually getting into them turn 1. And that's an issue. So what Moses does is, regardless of who drops the first unit, they drop their infiltrator unit. Their 1 unit can only cover like half of the table, even on Hammer and Anvil, unless it's like a 10-man infiltrator squad. And even then, it doesn't cover the entire board all the way across. So then you slam your Sentinel down on the other side, or if you go first, you slam it on one side or the other, doesn't matter. And he basically drills a hole through the no man's land where enemy infiltrating units cannot be set up, and thus they can't block out your bikes from going straight down the channel. I describe this as like parting the Red Sea, which is why I call him Moses. And it is essential to winning that matchup reliably while going first. Going second is a much more complicated game, but if you can make guard a coin flip guaranteed win, do that, because there are a lot of guard players out there who you don't want to have to deal with. And saying, "Oh, I went first, the game's just kind of over," makes that matchup a lot easier. So that's his main thing. He also does some other cute things. He can be really good at move blocking. He can be really good at like standing off on like a corner objective behind a wall before anyone else has to get up there, which can be kind of challenging sometimes for this army, especially something like Iron Hands, where like they have the firepower to kill whatever they can see. He's really good at getting behind enemy lines because he moves 12. He's on an 80, so he needs to go a decent number of inches. On that advance, if he starts 9 inches off the line, no, he only needs a 1-inch advance to get his base all the way over the line. If he starts 9 off, like there's just a ton of utility and fun plays with him. You unfortunately don't get stratagems because he's in an auxiliary support detachment, so he can't fire and fade, which would be glorious. But he's all around a really useful piece. And at the end of the day, if he ends up being dead weight in some matchups, he's 40 points of dead weight, which does not feel that bad to me personally. Cool. So that's the Burning Brood. Moving on down the line, Lucas, tell us a thing or two about the Tau Crushes.
Yeah, I was inspired by your Booning Brood, dude. I realized that I've never shared the name of my tribe on the podcast, which is cool. So my orcs are the Tau Crushes. Yeah, we got a Goth's Arcs of Omen detachment. We have a Squig Boss Warlord with Propagalia B-Side Mantle. We got a Warbiker Boss with the classic Brutal but Cunning to Kill a Claw combo. We've got Mr. Bossilus Zagstruckulus himself. 3 squads of Snaggle Boys, 3 squads of Gretchen, 2 squads of Commandos with a Claw, 2 squads of 10 Storm Boys with Claws, 1 squad of 5 Storm Boys, so 25 Storm Boys in total, 3 squads of 3 Pigs with Bomb Squigs, and then we got 3 Kill Rigs. They all have the AoE Mortals power, 2 of them has Squiggly Curse, and 1 has the Laser Beam Biting Jaws power. So yeah, pretty straightforward, just a massive wall of orcs that tend to like running at things. No trucks, no battle wagons, none of those kind of shenanigans. But the kill rig battle wagon debate is lively right now in the orc community, and different terrain formats really facilitate certain one of those or the other a lot better than others. And I believe that player place train is a format where kill rigs are much better. But
sure.
yeah.
So you're coming in with this. You're coming in with this off of your big win at Rosehammer with the same list point for point.
You didn't have I moved a couple of things around, but there's more or less the same stuff.
What got moved?
I dropped 2 Storm Boys and dropped the Squig Hide tires for something. 5 Commandos.
Third squad of Gretchen.
Third squad of Gretchen. That must have been it. Did I only have 20 Gretchen? No, I think I had 30. I forget. It was like 40 points of moving around a couple of things.
For sure. Okay, so coming off of that big win in at Rosehammer here, the meta has shifted somewhat substantially, I'd say, since then in this short amount of time. What are you thinking about in terms of the way the landscape is shifting, and how do you feel like you're still equipped to deal with it, or are you trying to dodge stuff? Like, how does this fit into the newest meta with the Q3 balance data slate and everything?
Well, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing on everyone's mind right now is Desolators and how to deal with them. This list does not do an amazing job of dealing with them. It more or less has to rely on the classic pressure style of you can't hope to kill everything, which is difficult because Ironhounds are very efficient and they can take a very good crack at killing everything that you put in front of them. The fortunate reality from my perspective is that not a lot of people play Marines up here. There were only, I think, like 3 or 4 Marine players at the event, and only 2 of them were running Desolators. So, it's fairly rare to actually run into that much indirect. And there's always even if I do run into it, there's the chance I go first and just run them over. And then even if I go second, hopefully I can use mitigating factors like forests, just putting my Storm Boys outside line of sight and behind forests so that, the Desolators don't hit them as efficiently, to just make it so they can't wipe everything out. And then maybe I can tag/wrap to eke out a win if I go second. So yeah, the Desolators are definitely spooky. Guard, I actually have had some success with this list. If I go first, it is incredibly scary for Guard. They have to be very cautious. If they give me any charges at all, the game more or less ends on turn 1 or 2. If they go first, it's scary, but I was able to win that game with the Kasserkin combo and flag at full efficiency. So now that those have been fixed, it's definitely a winnable matchup for orcs. So not as scared about Guard either. So those I think are the 2 big predators in my head at least, are Guard and Desolators. And I feel like my list deals decently enough with Guard, and I can hope to dodge the Desolators because there won't be that many of them. You're muted, Tyler.
God damn it. I'm bad at that today. All right, and then Nick, did we settle on Votann or Necrons for this event?
Neither. We were assigned an army to play, actually. I mean, I don't think it's any secret here. So we're preparing for teams in beginning of June, Brood Wars. And Lucas kind of has taken over as the biggest war boss. So he's become our de facto captain. And so we wanted to start practicing some lists for teams. And Lucas was like, well, you play Votann, you know how to shoot people, go play the best shooting army. And he says, go figure out how to play Iron Hands. So we're playing Iron Hands. With the Tin Hands successor chapter of Master Artisan's Whirlwind of Rage. This list is not very innovative. This list is not very creative. This is literally just me copying. I'm pretty sure it's Innis's list that I was just copying because I was like, all right, who's done really well with Iron Hands lately? Oh, Innis? Okay, cool. Let's just grab it and go see how it ticks. So I'll read it for those who are unfamiliar with this thing. We got a Primaris Lieutenant with Rights of War. We got a Primaris Tech Marine with Targeting Protocols. We got 2 squads of 5 Infiltrators. We got 1 squad of 5 Scouts with the Hero Scout Sergeant Brian with the Thunderhammer Combi Melta. There's also a Missile Launcher Scout in there and the rest of Sniper Rifles. We got 1 squad of 10 Vanguard Vets. 9 have Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. The Sergeant has a Relic Blade instead of a Storm Shield because they don't have any more points left. We've got the Relic Contemptor Dreadnought that we've spent an additional CP on to turn into a character with the March of the Ancients Iron Hand stratagem. And then we also buy him a Warlord trait, Merciless Logic, which is an ancient Warlord trait from 8th edition that says 6s to hit or additional hit roll attempts. We have 3 solo Land Speeder Tornadoes. Those are the Land Speeders with multi-meltas and assault cannons. We have 2 squads of 5 of the hated Desolator Marines. They all have Super Crack. The Sergeants all have the Vengor launchers. And then 1 has been upgraded to become Mastercrafted, so it's a 3 damage Vengor launcher. We have a squad of 3 Eradicators, Sergeant with a multi-melta, 2 heavy melta rifles on the other lads, and then 2 squads of 5 Devastators. We're going 2 Grav, 2 multi-melta. We've got a Cherub, of course, and then the Sergeant's got Thunderhammer Combi Melta because it's free. And then we got a Drop Pod and a Land Speeder Storm, and we spend all of our CP, so we start on 0, just as GW intended.
Good stuff. Mans is already playing 10th.
That's it. 10,000. Yeah, 2,000 points. No CP. I spent every resource. We're ready to go, dude.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Iron Hands have a lot of good 1 CP stratagems, and obviously Marines have also a lot of good Warlord traits and stratagems. Given that you spend 3 on that Dreadnought pre-game, which you basically have to do, could you talk a little bit about why you took the other 3 CP things that you took and which ones, if any, you might consider dropping?
Yeah, well, I took them because other people took them, so I was just copying. That's the short answer, is I was copying to see if it was good. Have they come up? So there's Rights of War, there's the Mastercrafted Deso, and then where's my last CP? Oh, Targeting Protocols on the Tech Marine. Yeah. Obviously the 3 on the Contemptor Dreadnought is mandatory because he's 1 to take him. He's another one to turn him into a character, which is the best 1 CP you can spend in this book. And then you might as well take the guy who's going to be shooting every turn uncontested and be like, hey, dude, you want to become a little more efficient at shooting? Here's Merciless Logic. So Rights, Targeting, and the +1 damage are all okay buffs. Targeting is a decent buff because it's at the start of the shooting phase. You pick an Iron Hands unit, I believe within 6 of the Tech Marine. He was always right next to the Dreadnought. Spoiler, it goes on the Dreadnought usually. And it gives them a hit, a wound, and a damage reroll, which makes him a lot more efficient because he's shooting these D6 missiles. And so now it's you get a wound reroll on the missile in addition to lieutenant rerolls, and you get damage rerolls, which is really nice on a D6 weapon. The hit rerolls aren't that impactful because he's usually getting +1 to hit, so he's hitting on 2s, rolling 1s. But sometimes when you're shooting through a force or into a lightning fasted unit, you have 2 hit rerolls now because you have the Targeting Protocol reroll and Master Artisans. It's also really good on Desos, giving that guy with the 3 damage launcher an additional hit reroll and a wound reroll is pretty nice. Obviously, there's no damage to reroll there unless you get to fire the direct line of sight. But I think that's a pretty good upgrade because it's just one of those things where it's 1 CP to get use out of it for the entire 5 turns of the game. The other 2 are okay. Rights of War never came up in my first 5 practice games before this tournament, but it came up in a lot of games at the tournament. Just being able to have an aura of OBSEC on characters or on units. I've abused OBSEC characters a lot with Necrons, and it's cool having that ability again. There's very little OBSEC in the game right now, and it's really easy to kill. So being able to in the late game walk out and be this is my objective now, you're on a 4, is very strong. Or being able to stop your opponent from stealing your home objective, very strong. And the last one, the Mastercrafted Vengor. We were thinking just 3 damage on a strength 6 AP2 weapon, ignore line of sight, is pretty good. It's really good if you're shooting Marines that you can't see that have an apothecary. It's really good at shooting Terminators. It's really good at shooting War Leaders units. Speeders, yeah, just good. I don't think I'd really change it that much. I think you just need to learn to like never be greedy with your CP. Like you very rarely get to CP reroll anything, which you never should need to because you're so efficient at shooting anyways. And if you ever really want to like guarantee kill something, just spend 1 CP on Mercy as weakness. And there you go. So you just need to never like be tempted. Because if you're tempted, you'll spend that CP and then you lose it later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah. So if y'all didn't pick up on this, the running joke is that we're all making fun of Nick for being, such a horrible meta chaser when we like requested this of him. This is not Nick going out and saying, "Oh my gosh, ninth is coming to a close. Let me go beat the crap out of some fools with iron hands." This is Nick saying, "Okay, we need this for the team event. Let's get him ready." So we'll continue to give him endless crap about it, but know that like we don't actually mean any of it. We really appreciate him taking one for the team and playing this mouth breather nonsense for us. Because we need
mouth
team.
breather it is.
All right, jumping on into the first round. We decided to play the pack backwards, not actually, but that's what it seemed like in the begining. I'm gonna mull about that later. But we're starting off with secure missing artifacts, better known as priority objectives. It's a great mission, well beloved by children, adults alike. Everyone loves it. And we're starting off with man. All right, so let's take a quick step back. How are you guys feeling going into this event? What are your expectations? What are your goals? What are you trying to get done here? How do you see this going? And what are you trying to do? Are we just avoiding team kills and winning the event, or what's the goal for the weekend front end?
I think we all came into this really wanting one of the three of us to win. I think we all kind of said that on the way up, is like, no matter what, which one of us does it, one of us should definitely win this event. Like, we have the capacity to. We're all heavy hitters in the Northwest by this point. Like, it definitely should be one of us, hopefully. And I personally obviously was hoping that I would win. It'd be cool to get like a back-to-back Rosehammer into Tau tipping double win, which would be really sick. But yeah, so that was my hope. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, for me, I mean, like, I was playing all of my games trying to win them. The main goal of the weekend was learn how to play Iron Hands and learn like how Iron Hands performs in certain like matchups. It wasn't like take unnecessary risks and try wacky stuff though. It was still like try to win every game you play. And like I was like, it'd be cool to win the tournament, but I definitely have not put the practice required. I have not put in the practice required to win this tournament. I'm just being carried by the fact that I'm playing a very strong, ridiculous army. And maybe that's enough to get me across the finish line. But I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't win because, again, I have not put in the time to practice this army enough to, like, guarantee winning the event. At least in my opinion. I played, like, into 3 different armies. There's so many matchups I didn't understand. And I'm like, I might, like, lose one of those by 2. And, like, we'll find out. So, yeah. What about yourself, Tyler?
For sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going into this event pretty damn hungry. Lucas obviously took a big win the last event we were at. Nick's taken a couple big wins at events we've been at before. I'm feeling like I gotta go out and get mine. And this feels like a pretty decent event to do it at. I'm very well practiced in my list. I know what it does. I know what most of the matchups are. I am terrified of Desolation Marines, but there's not a ton of them out there. I think my worst 2 matchups are Nick and Lucas. And if I'm going to lose to one of them, that's whatever. But I think I can play into the field fairly well. There's a couple people out there that I'm worried about, but if I get the right missions in particular, I think I can handle those. So yeah, I'm like, you don't win. You can't walk into an event and say, I'll only be happy if I win this event. But I was definitely eye on the prize in this one in a way that I haven't been in the last couple, because I feel like I'm properly situated with my practice level and GSC's power level to go all the way on this one. So we get into round 1, and you always want a warm-up game round 1, something nice and easy to just sort of get the blood flow and get some game reps. And you guys actually played played games Friday night just to warm up a little bit. I was not about to whip out the 130 model GSC for that. So I was just hoping we get something nice for round 1. And well, this is what I got round 1. Lucas, you want to walk us through my opponent?
Space Wolf hell, bro. Yeah, we got Space Wolf successors, Hungry for Battle, Whirlwind of Rage, but
Hmm.
spoiler alert, it's not all Space Wolves. We have a Librarian with Jump Pack, Combi Melta, Chief Librarian, Armor Indomitus, Living Lightning, Murderous Hurricane, and Instincts Awoken. So he's a Librarian that has the Armor Indomitus. He's got 3 squads of 5 Wolf Guard with Jump Packs, Lightning Claws, and Combi Meltas. Curious to not see a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. We got 10, 10, and 9 Wolfen with Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. We've got the 3 squads of 6 Sky Claws with the standard loadout, 4 Melta-Guns, Power Fist, Thunderhammer. And then we've got Robo Booty, Girly Man, the man himself, with the Ultramarine Warlord trait, because maybe he needed to take that. We still never really reached a conclusion on whether or not you need to take that Warlord trait. And it starts with 6 CP, thanks to Mr. Gilliman. So absolutely a terrifying list with a ridiculous amount of melee punch. And Tyler has a history into Space Wolves. Tell us about this game, Tyler.
Yeah, for sure. But before I get into the game, can you explain why is Gilliman here? Why does he take this to a decent level? Like, why is he not a meme?
He's obviously a slappy melee character, but that's not the reason you take him. You take him for a 12-inch aura that affects Imperium of +1 advance, +1. I think it's +1 advance. Definitely
Yep.
+1 charge. And then reroll once to hit. So you're getting a captain, you're getting +1 at charge, you're getting +1 advance, and he can just sit with the Wolfen and all the Wolf Guard and just bullet them up the board super fast. And that, in conjunction with Hungry for Battle, means that all of your charges are +2, and all of your advances are +2, which is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
You basically have permanent chaplain charge chant.
Mm-hmm.
Not the pylon part of it, but like the really good part. The pylon part's cool, but
the sticker shock part, yeah. Yes, this is terrifying, and it's like he has no access to advance and charge, but he doesn't need it because all these idiots move 12. So it's like, oh, are you within 20? Well, that's a 6-inch charge. Fun. And yeah, as Lucas said, I have a notoriously bad reputation in Space Wolves. I have lost into this exact Space Wolf player. This is Linton Rowan, who is one of the more winning year players in the Northwest. He performs very highly with these kinds of lists. I think he came in 2nd or 3rd at Rosehammer. No, I was in 3rd, so he came in 2nd. Is that what happened? Or did he come in? I don't remember. But he does very well for himself, is the moral of the story. So this is I came in 3rd, he came in 2nd. So this guy knows what he's doing, and he's got a terrifying list that has a lot of the tools necessary to work through GSC. It's very scary. So this game, as most priority objective games do, really starts in the roll off for attacker defender. We roll off, and he wins. And he chooses to be attacker because he wants to pull his own objective. And he takes his midfield objective and he pulls it closer. He's worried that if I yank that out into midfield, I'm going to have a lot of guns and OBSEC bodies kind of running around, and that's going to be an issue. I think he pulls it in backwards. He might actually pull it forward. No, he must pull it backwards. Yeah, he pulls it backwards. Cool. So then as defender, I grab my midfield and also pull that backwards. And this is the tricksy bit, I love doing this into armies like this. I take his home field objective, like the one that he starts the game on, and I pull it 6 inches directly back into his very back corner, which initially may seem a bit bizarre because that makes it safer. But the reason for that is that I know like you read this list, you know what it's going to do. It's going to run forward screaming, and it's going to cry at a table you. And knowing what GSC do, I'm going to try to be in his backfield, standing on his home field objective as soon as possible. And the safer that objective is for him, the safer it's actually going to be for me. So in my mind, I'm pulling my home field objective safer, not his. So then he naturally grabs my home field objective and yanks it 6 inches toward the middle. So like both of the home fields have gone in the same direction, which is toward Linton's deployment zone, toward his back corner, and then the midfields have gone back toward their respective board edges. So that's feeling pretty good. And then as defender, I get to slam a forest in the middle, which helps out a lot as well. Because if this dude gets an L, especially like a solid L, because there are solid L's on this table, if he gets a solid L on the center objective and says, cool, turn 1, I put my entire army in that, very scary. So fortunately, we managed to avoid that. He goes first, which is always sketchy. I would really like a turn of free primary and to get my drops happening before his do. And he basically runs a squad of 10 Wolfen, Gilliman, and the Rune Priest onto the center objective and says, "What are you going to do about it, bro?" And then he sends 5 dudes up top and 5 dudes down to the bottom. This is one of my big games, which I'm going to take a while talking about it, but I'll try to move quickly. And he says, "Cool, deal with all these problems at once." And I try. I send a squad of bikes down to the bottom such that they can kill those 5 dudes and then fire and fade away. I send a squad of bikes toward the middle with the intention to full commit to go after those wolf in there. We're going to shoot them. We're going to charge them. We're going to do what it takes. And then I have the third squad of bikes that makes a huge mistake because I have in my head that I'm going to walk on my from every angle neophyte squad turn 1 and shoot the top squad of 5 rats. But I don't. I decide that the neophyte squad is going to walk on and help out with the wolfen to make sure they're gone. So I end up totally botching the placement on this third squad of bikes, which makes this game really sketchy because one squad is getting full sent. I'm totally accepting them dying. The other squad I think is safe. They're not safe. They're in a really bad position. So I deal with the wolfen. I think I only kill 8 of them. So there's 2 left chilling in the auto passes. The Gilliman and the Rune Priest get to chill. And then the actually terrifying thing is that 5-man at the bottom, I only kill 4 of them. The sergeant is still chilling, which is crazy. I committed over there pretty dang hard and just whiffed big time on the dice. Now with the fire and fade, I'm still safe with that squad of bikes. But that one sergeant who then passes his morale check, he makes a beeline for my icon ward and kills her bottom 1. Or top 2, rather, because he went first. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a problem.
That's not ideal.
Yeah, it's definitely not how I wanted that to go. However, he also killed 20 bikes turn 1. So, she wasn't going to bring anyone back anyway. But definitely a bummer. Especially because he took Assassinate, which is what it is. So he then crashes in pretty darn hard. I also totally, like I said, I am not warmed up. I'm not doing things correctly. I claim that I'm going to go screen out my top left objective with Moses, with my Sentinel, because he has no obsec in this list at all, not even rights. So if I have 5 acolytes on the table on that objective, I should just be able to screen him out from charging those acolytes. He can't kill those acolytes. That objective is mine. I totally botched that screening. He sets up 2 different deep strike charges and makes both of them because they're +2, so they're 7s. And within range of Wolfen, within 12 Wolfen, they're natively re-rolling the charge. Wild. Secondaries wise, by the way, for those of y'all who can't see here, I took ambush behind and retrieve. So that squad up there retrieves top 1. And he takes assassinate, shock tactics, and prisoners. Prisoners is going to be a 15 no matter what, but I'd like to minimize his assassinate, and I'd like to mitigate his shock tactics somewhat. There was a world where I could have, what you want to do into shock tactics that I wasn't able to quite pull off, but if honestly out of laziness, is that you never want to take objectives from Marine players. You always want to contest them. So run in, kill 8 Wolfen, and then leave 2 Wolfen, 2 dudes on the objective, leave 4 bikes. And if the Wolfen run away, he wants to get shock tactics that way, that's fine, because then the Wolfen are dying. But in theory, the contest prevents him scoring points of either kind. So he comes in, hits me pretty hard, puts me to a 0 on primary turn 2, which is utterly terrifying. But he doesn't get to the neophytes because the neophytes are actually screened correctly. So my primary angle squad is big chillin'. They're sort of strung across all the way up and down. And now it's drop turn time. And in his backfield, as in his half of the table, he has 2 squads of 5 rats with jetpacks. Or one's a 5, one's a 6. I don't remember what the combo is, but he's got 2 squads, 1 on each objective. And I'm like, all right, bro, that's a mistake. One of those objectives is not screening out the 3-inch deep strike from the lying in wait squad properly. So we drop it over there and get that. And the other squad is screening out the 3-inch deep strike. So that I have the Kellermorph show up just outside of 6. So that after he shoots, he'll get to move 6 and then he'll be on the objective, which is big money. So now I'm getting both of those objectives. That big from every angle squad walks up, makes some careful charges. I think what I end up doing is that one rat who jumped in and killed my icon ward actually becomes a liability because I then charge it with the From Every Angle squad of Neophytes and the squad of Bikes and the Primus, and that lets me get a ton of movement while dodging all of his heroics. Because the scariest part of Space Wolves for me is the 6-inch heroic interventions from anybody, which makes it really hard for me to weasel my way onto objectives. But what you can do here is get this back and forth movement of there's a bunch of scary rats on the objective that I can't be within 6 of, so I charge like way across the table into this singular rat with some melee stuff, mainly the Primus to kill him, but also the Neophytes. The Neophytes charge, and they're charged outside of 6 of all the dudes that want a heroic, but those dudes are still the closest, so when they pile 4, console 4, they get back onto the objective while being outside of heroic range when it was actually relevant. And dodging heroics like that is incredibly important. There's also obviously the big dodging heroic tricks of charging 2 units and piling out of one of them, but that doesn't work quite as well into Space Wolves because any one of their units obliterates any of mine. So I have to be real careful about that kind of stuff. So we do that. We hold him, which means we take him off of both of those objectives and both of his backfields, which means he gets a 4 for holding the center objective as his primary that turn. He's got like 12 Wolfen on it, and I'm like, all right, that works. Sure, why not? More importantly, it means that I also get my priority objective again. So we both chose each other's home field objectives as their priority objectives. Mine having been pulled into the middle, his being shunted all the way into the back corner. So he's never getting that again after turn 2. I've just gotten mine on turn 2 as well. Then he tries to like do a bunch of things at once and is like focused on killing the Bikes and also some characters. And also I also drop in another squad of like I've mentioned. Sorry, so the 4 squads of Neophytes, one of them has walked in turn 1, 2 of them have deep struck in his backfield, one making a full row in front of the other, so he can't charge the back squad ever. And then the 4th squad has dropped in the top left corner above my midfield objective to start working on all the rats that are up there. That also draws a ton of firepower up there. He sends a full squad of Wolfen into them, which means that he sends in like a couple different units piecemeal into the 20-man to actually get rid of them. The front angle that's strung between the 2 objectives on my side of the table. Which means that he is unable to get any massive activations. Gilliman is one of them, and Gilliman's a monster, so he has problems with walls. So I end up orchestrating it just right, such that after like 1 or 2 of the units is activated, no one else can activate, and there's still 4 dudes left, like 2 of which are way up top in a weird spot, and 1 of which is behind a wall on my home field objective in a weird spot, just so that all of them are outside of activation range. So we're good. Those 3 dudes are chilling. I fail morale, doesn't matter. Pull one of the 2 dudes up top, roll my 2 3-ups, past one of them. So one more dude, the other dude flees from up top, and the bottom dude is still chilling. So I get an 8 because he killed the Kellermorph that turn. He ran his Rune Priest over and like Smite Living Lightning, just got him, which was a bummer, but that's how it goes. It's also some assassinate points, but what are you gonna do? So I get an 8 for holding his home field and my home field on turn 3. I then advance this singular Neophyte, staying on the objective, running over such that he's only within 6 inches of 1 unit of Space Wolf anything. And I put a crossfire token on that unit so I can spend 1 CP to turn off its heroic intervention. And suddenly I'm scoring my priority objective and denying him 4 more points of primary. And also that dude is now on the correct side of the wall to set up an exposure from the units on the other side of the table into his 2-man Wolfen unit that's in the center of the board. So that's 4 more points on ambush. So that single dude just scored me 5 points and denied him 4, like 7, denied him. I don't know. It's a very silly swing, just how much value you can get out of a single dude in GSC with OBSEC. So that's great. And at this point, Linton seems pretty convinced that he's like won this game. Like he's trying to talk to me about like points and stuff. And I'm like, dude, like what are we doing here, bro? Like I get that you've totally tabled this half of my army, but scoreboard. I've dropped 3 of my characters, the Nexus, the Reductus, and the Kellermorph indeed, but the Nexus, the Reductus, and the who am I forgetting about? No, the Nexus, the Reductus, the Kellermorph. Yeah, because he kills 4 characters. Those 3 have dropped on my side of the table. The Nexus is doing nothing but applying crossfire this game. No bouncing ores or anything because I can't give up assassinate points. This game is going to be too tight for that. He gets the Calormorph, which is a bummer, but that's how it goes. So he then realizes, oh snap, I need to turn around and run in the other direction. And he is just not able to get back nearly in time. +2 charge isn't nearly enough for how far back I am because he is full committed and is all the way in my DZ. So he never gets back to me. I've got bottom of turn. I run out of that center objective. I've got 5 rats deep striking into corners. I had 5 do my top left turn 1. I had him deep strike into my bottom right to do it turn 2. Then turn 3, I deep strike into my home field quadrant. I drop 5 dudes. And then turn 4, I pick up the 5 dudes who are in his like midfield quadrant that he's never getting to. And then turn 5, I drop them back in his home field quadrant to finish RBD. So that's a 12. Behind is an automatic 15. I've had multiple units in his DZ since turn 2. So that's a straight 16. And then ambush, I just keep lining up these exposures and keep getting it done. So we score secondaries real well. I got 3 more prio than he did because he got it turns 1 and 2. I got 1, 2, and 3 thanks to that singular rat. And then I end up primary wise with a 0, 8, 8, 12. He ends up with 8, 4, 4, 8. So I'm up primary 30 to 37. And then secondaries wise, I'm at a 31. He's at a 31 he's at a 40. Sorry. I'm at a 41. He's at a 40, so I'm up 1 point on secondary. End up pulling out the game 88 to 80. Super close, super tight, very scary. I thought I was really up a creek after he was completely all over me turn 1. I probably didn't grab a picture of this because it was utterly terrifying, but people kept walking by and being like, yep, Tyler's down. Round 1 to Space Wolves. Shocker. But this was a really big growth moment for me to pull this out and to pull it out doing my kind of shenanigan-y nonsense, as opposed to just brute forcing him off the table. This is my big moment that I think I'll remember the most from this weekend, as fun as some of these other games were. So yeah, I'm feeling fantastic after round 1. All right.
Hell yeah, dude. Nicely done.
Thank you. Cool. So you've heard me talk for a bazillion minutes. So we'll jump on into some other round 1s. Lucas pairs into the only other orc player in the event. Nick, you know a thing or two about orcs. Why don't you run us through this orc list that Lucas is playing into?
So this guy is also playing Goths because they are the best. He's got a Beast Boss on Squigosaur with Beasthide Mantle and Proper Killy. He's got a Warbice on Warbike with BBK to Killiclaw. He's got a Weird Boy with Warpath and the Jump. 10 Beast Nagas, 3 squads of 10 Gretchen, 2 squads of 10 Mandos with everything. We're talking Bomb Squig, Distraction Grot, Breacher Ram, Big Choppa, Shaka Pistol. 10 Knobs that are Truck Boys with Big Choppas and Sluggas instead of Choppas, and 2 ammo runs. We also got a Pain Boy, 5 Def Coptas, 2 squads of 4 Squig Hogs with Bomb Squigs, 10 Storm Boys with Power Claw, 2x5 Storm Boys with Power Claw, 3 solo mech guns that are custom mega cannon, and a truck with Fortress on wheels, starting with 1 CP. How'd this go, Lucas? Some orc on orc violence.
Yeah, it's more or less a mirror match. We do have a couple things that are different from each other, but not excessively so. Darby didn't actually know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Quick pause before we jump into this. We got to shout out our boy Tim Penny, dropping the $2 super chat at saying, "What up, gents?" and's here to show some support, and he's wogging. Thank you, Tim, for the generous support.
You love to see some wog.
Yeah, gotta love the wog. All right, tell us about the wog, Lucas.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, for that. Yeah, definitely a very interesting game here. We each have some things that are very different. He's got some cool Def Copters. The mech guns were actually really good in this matchup because I couldn't kill them and they could just sit back and shoot me for forever, which is pretty interesting. I ended up going first, which in any pressure game, especially when there's a lot of forward deployers, is really, really powerful. And without wogging, managed to pick up all of his commandos, which is the reason why I don't like 10-man commando squads. If you're still playing orcs and you're considering commandos, take a 5-man squad. It's way more versatile and is way less investment, in my opinion. 10 mandos can be good riding in a battle wagon or a truck or something like that. But other than that, I think dropping in the midfield is just way too bad if you happen to go second. Yeah, it was an interesting game. It definitely had a panic moment when his knobs bulleted over and gave me a taste of my own medicine and tried to snipe out my war boss. before I could call the WOG, but unfortunately, some clutch taking saves on my armor save against his custom mega cannons to try to get my kill rig to die. So I dumped out the boys in front of the knobs. Actually ended up saving my war boss's life, which was hilarious. So the knobs just ended up killing those, 6 remaining beast snagas, and then it was walk time. So we had a big old scrap in the middle of the table. I'll skip ahead here.
Oh,
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, continue.
We all kind of disconnected at the same moment there.
Yeah, weird.
But yeah, it was just a big old Royal Rumble in the middle of the table, and I ended up having a little bit more meat than Darby did. As you can see, we both took the same secondaries. Assassination, get the good bits, and no prisoners are pretty much staples for both of us. And I just
mirror match, baby.
Literally the mirror match. We turned to each other pregame and we're like, whoever wins defender, it's not really going to matter because we're just pulling our own good bits objective safer. And he's like, every good bit. Yeah. So definitely a fun game. GG to Darby, but I think he's a little bit newer to Orcs, so my experience and also just a couple of the tools I had in my list ended up being really helpful. The rigs are great here. He didn't have the most strength 8, so it took him a while to cut through the first 2, and then by that point he had lost all of his anti-tank, and the last rig just kind of ran roughshod all over his army. It was a lot of fun. The melee mirror matches are always an interesting one for Orcs because we have a lot of amazing tools. Obviously, we have a lot of speed, we have a lot of damage. Our obsec inside of transports is a pretty unique problem for a lot of melee folks to deal with. In particular, I'm thinking, obviously the mirror match, as we saw here, and for world leaders as well. Obsec dudes and transports kind of define that matchup to a large extent on both sides. Where was I going there with that? But one of the big shortcomings of Orcs is they're starting on 1 CP. They have a lot of great melee control stratagems between, obviously interrupt and fight on death, all that kind of stuff. Starting on 1 CP, you have to be very, very careful with where you spend. My rule of thumb is if you think there's going to be more than 2 or 3 combats in every battle round, you should save every single one of your CP for fight on death or interrupt when you're playing Orcs. Just don't try to reroll damage. Don't reroll psychic cast. It doesn't matter. Just save them for the 2 CP strats because they're the most important. They're the most impactful. And at some point on turn 2 or 3, if you're being frivolous with your CP, you're going to realize you're out and you're going to really regret having thrown that all away. So definitely, if you're having trouble in melee matchups, try saving your CP for the most important stratagems only.
I had some really good advice. I know that Orcs don't have a ton of fight phase control in terms of fights first, fights last kind of stuff, or any sort of weird heroic nonsense. But I know that you tend to overcome that a lot with a lot of player skill around combat tricks and whatnot. Did anything come up in this game where you were able to leverage some of that combat know-how in an Orcs mirror?
Yeah, definitely. The most important thing is making sure characters fight as many times as possible. Usually that means they'll get to fight and then they'll get to fight on death. And if you can push that to 2 fights and a fight on death, that is very, very good. Usually what that means is you throw away your 5-man commando squads, your 5-man Stormboy squads to charge an enemy unit, base 80% of it, and then your character engages just 1 or 2 models, and then, Orc characters are pretty tough. The squishiest one on my list is the biker boss, who is not easy to kill. And
he's squishier than Zagstruck?
Oh, definitely. 5 at Film Pain is juicy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And so, that way they get 1 activation, and then your Storm Boys are body blocking for them, so they can't actually charge you. So then they get to charge something else, and by that point, it doesn't really matter if you're interrupt blocking or not. And then when they follow up, kill you in melee, you can fight on death. Also, just understanding the math of what units are good at punching what things, such that, an enemy interrupt or a fight on death might not wipe out your character. A great example of this in the World Leaders matchup is try to line up the right characters in the right units. For example, the Beast Boss loves fighting Berserkers because the Berserkers will never kill him. Zagstruck also likes fighting Berserkers as well. The biker boss likes fighting 8-bound. Just try to line up the profiles against the right targets, and then you'll find that things flow a lot more efficiently that way.
Makes good sense. All right, let's round out round one with our boy Nicholas here. And Lucas, you know demons better than I do. What kind of demon nonsense is he running into with these Iron Hands?
This is JT. Very nice. This is JT's mixed demons list.
Shout out our boy JT.
Army. Yeah, JT's the best. And as always, everyone from Aegis has beautiful looking armies that put everyone else to shame. We've got Be'lakor with Shadowed Step and Paul of Despair, Bloodthirster with Indomitable Onslaught, Changecaster with Gaze of Fate and +1 to Wound for Flamers. We've got a Lord of Change with all sorts of cool stuff that makes him tankier. 2 squads of Bloodletters, 10 Blue Horrors, 3 Nurglings, 13 Flamers, and 5 Fleshhounds, starting with 2 CP. So a nice all-arounder demons list.
Yep. I hadn't played against demons yet with Iron Hands, and I knew this matchup was one I was a bit spooked of because my army's big strength is we have ludicrously high AP, and demons laugh in the face of AP. So I also don't like mortals because I have, if you guys saw that list, it's like 37 models on the board. It might be a few more, but it's very few models on the board. So secondary wise, I'm still like a bit, green with the Iron Hand secondaries. I've played at this point like World Eaters twice, Necrons. I've played the Mirror, and I've played against Tau twice. And I guess Chaos Knights once. So I'm like, all right, let's take like the easy secondaries. In my opinion, like Iron Hands is a, with Codex Warfare gone, is just like a take the easy kill secondaries, maybe take shock tactics, maybe take banners, right? There's going to be a little bit of back and forth today because I lost my scoring notebook, and we found it this morning in Tyler's car, but it is still with Tyler. So I'm trying to remember what I exactly took in this game. I know I took Bring It Down over Assassinate because Bring It Down is a very easy 12. I'm going to have to kill Be'lakor, this Thirster, and this Lord of Change to win the game. I believe I also took shock tactics.
You did indeed.
Yep. And I think I also took banners.
Generally a good call.
Yeah. Banners is pretty easy because the demons are coming at you by like teleporting. And your infiltrators just stop that. So infiltrators just hang out and banner and you're good. And I took shock because this was on secure missing artifacts. So we're probably going to be fighting over the middle a lot. Like if JT ever cedes the middle, I just win the game. I elected to be attacker because I wanted to move my objective closer to me, to have infiltrators start on it and have a nice defensive piece of terrain. He moved his objective closer to him. I pushed his home objective a little out to the side to kind of mess with some of his terrain. But he deployed his terrain pretty well. And so I was just like, all right, I'm going to make your objective that's closer to me, Prio. And he did the same. Yeah, he ended up going first. The Demon Alpha Strike isn't really a thing because I've screened out the teleport of the Lord of Change with the infiltrators. And then both of us are kind of just like floating around trying to figure out this game. He's like, do I respect the pod? Do I let you pod? He's like, I don't really know. This Lord of Change is -1 to hit and wound, 3-up invuln, gets to turn any failed save to damage 0. Sure, man, go ahead. And so I'm like, all right, I've played with Votan into this Lord of Change before, and while he does have all that defensive stuff, sometimes you can just throw enough dice at him and he'll keel over. And I was like, JT, I'm going to throw my entire army at that Lord of Change. So I bring the pod in, super crack him, speeder him, scout him, dreadnought him, and the Lord of Change eventually falls over. And this is pretty good. We got one threat out of the way. The Thirster eventually arrives. He ends up sending the Thirster back to deal with the pod. He ends up sending Be'lakor forward. We eventually kill Be'lakor. The Thirster comes to the middle. We eventually kill the Thirster. And then it kind of just comes down to like, all right, you're out of stuff. I'm going to come running at your objectives. It was pretty funny because JT was like, all right, like you have like, I've been tagging his flamers and stuff so they can't come out and shoot. So he just kind of elects to fall back and sit on his objectives. And I can't come around and cut angles on him because like he's killed most of my speeders. The speeders also aren't that good at killing flamers because they're shooting them and they get 3-up saves. And my Deso's out of line of sight, same thing. They get 3-up saves. So I'm actually not able to like clear him off of his objectives very quickly. So I keep just passing to him and he's like, all right, 8 on primary,
3 for holding my prio, 2 for reality rebels, pass to you. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's just getting 13 points sitting here. Like, I need to like rush him quickly. And we end up winning 90 to 85. But just kind of goes to show how spooky that matchup can be.
Very cool. Very cool. Alrighty. So clean sweep of round 1 for TNG. Feeling pretty good. Running on into round 2. We were playing Nick's favorite mission, but actually this time it's Death and Zeal. So sticky quarters. And I am running headlong into Imperial Knights. And this is a list I know that Lucas knows a thing or two about because he played into it the night before. Dun-dun. Tell us about this House Raven list and some of the history behind it, Lucas.
Yeah, so this is Imperial Knights. They're definitely a codex. So over the course of, I guess they've been out like basically a year now. The past year, they've had a couple different archetypes that have all been strong. Raven is definitely one we don't see a lot. They are Mechanicus, so that is a step in the right direction in terms of competitive viability. Raven's trait is you ignore movement penalties in the movement phase, I believe. I don't know if you ignore charge. That was unclear to me. But you also can advance and shoot all weapons with no penalty. So be light, run, shoot your heavy weapons. Who cares? It's great. So yeah, he is taking a Defend the Realm, so CP Oath, and Protect Those in Need. That's the Heroic Oath, so he does not have the rerolls. He's got 3 Helverns, 2 Warglaves, a single Warglaive, a Moirax with Lightning Locks. He's got the Knight Errant, who's a Princeps, has the 4-up invulnerable against shooting, and is a Revered Knight, so he fights first. The Princeps lets him hand out his advance and charge to the other big knight in the list, the Knight Paladin. The Paladin has Master Tactician for the free strat. Master Tactician. Is that the -1 damage in his DZ? I forget.
No, that's Forge Master.
Oh, does he not have that in his list?
No, he does not.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's slightly different from Noah's.
Okay, it is different from Noah's. So yeah, Master Tactician gives the free strat. Landstrider gives advanced D3 plus 3 and something else.
I don't think it's
He's
D3
fast.
plus 3. I think it's all advance and charge dice are minimum 3.
Something like that. He moves really fast. And he can advance and charge because of the Errant, and he's a Knight Baron, so he does something else. But yeah, 2 big knights, 7 little knights.
Yeah. So this is a really bad matchup for knights. GSC really like killing knights, and Imperial Knights are not particularly durable. Obviously, the little guys can be quite challenging to work your way through, but if you can get some good shots on the big guys, you're feeling pretty good. I took Bring It Down because I'm playing into Knights. I took Behind Enemy Lines because I'm playing Genestealer Colts. And I took RBD because I'm playing Genestealer Colts into Knights. Banners would have been acceptable here, but I don't really like banners on these missions because I don't really have a way to put one up turn 1 on the midfield. And after that, it just gets messy. So just take RBD, be a little safer, especially because I'm going for behind anyway. Lee ends up going first. It's becoming a running joke how infrequently I go first. But I was actually okay with that. I didn't mind going second in this game at all. So I have Moses up on that top left objective, and I pregame a squad of bikes up there as well in a way that they're not really getting shot at by anybody. And Lee says, "You want to see how fast these Warglaves go? Check it out." And his Errant just, smacks one upside the ass, and it just takes off and charges Moses. Like, as far back on my home field objective as he could be. He's like, "Nope, you're in combat, bitch." And then fails to kill Moses because Warglaves are really bad at combat. And I was like, all right, cool. You got an OBSEC 5 model on that objective. Thanks, bro. Works for me. And this kind of begins what is going to be a recurrent theme for this weekend, which is that while I'm playing a list that I know very well, I'm trying to alter my play patterns here. The way that I took this list to Rosehammer and have been doing quite well with it is I am going to drop in and I'm going to hit you as hard as I possibly can, right? Like I'm going to end the game on turn 2, and then I'm going to do bullshit nonsense after that to make sure that the points work out in my favor. But the goal is maximize damage. In this event, my goal is changed, and it is now minimize clapback. I trust that my army has the output that I need to do the damage that I need it to do. And I would rather have pieces that do less for longer than pieces that do more for one turn. particularly with the removal of Brood Swarm, I need to play a longer game. I can't run up the scoreboard high enough fast enough. So, for example, this is a thing that happens a lot. Moses is really good at this, and the bike's good at it too. Because that dude is baited all the way in, the From Every Angle squad just walks into the table behind walls on my side of the board and blows that thing to hell. Like, the bikes help out and whatnot, but like, he's just dead. And there's zero way for him to interact with that squad now. And the next turn, it's on the objective and taking shots. So that was a really effective squad in that particular instance. So they were great. And then I'm like, all right, he runs his paladin up into the middle and just goes boom on the button. 5 points. What are you going to do about it? On Renew the Oath. 6 Renew the Oath, no prisoners, and yield no ground. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, bro. Yeah, we're not going to let you keep doing that. Because my concern is if I just leave him there and take some shots at him, he's just going to keep slamming that button, and I can't really afford to have him do that. So I throw a squad of bikes at him, thinking, okay, we'll probably bracket him once, and then we'll get into combat. We'll take some damage, but not a ton, because, again, these things don't actually hit that hard in melee. And then he won't be able to do the action because he's in combat, because Titanic lets you do a lot of things. Fall back and act is not one of them. And he's also like really in the center of the table, so I can block it off from any other knights moving in to hit the button. And then I accidentally did 26 damage to that knight that turn. Yeah, the Reductus pops off, Huck a demo charge with a bunch of damage, Flamers at +1 damage, charge in, Huck another demo in combat, like just boom, 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 boom. And that knight is down to like 8, I think, at the end of turn 1, and he's in combat. It doesn't do. I think he kills like 1 bike.
Holy cow! I just wrapped my head around Strength 5, AP 1, 2 damage Flamers with +1 to wound into
yeah
Armor Knight. Holy cow!
GSC are silly, and I'm rerolling 1s to wound too. Like 11 hits, wounding on 4s, reroll 1s, take 4-ups or take 2. If you play into Imperial Knights, kill the big ones. They're made of paper. Especially if you play GSC. So yeah, that's kind of how the rest of the game goes. I drop in places, I kill stuff. It's not crazy exciting. Lee and I had a great time because Lee was a great opponent. Also, his dice completely abandoned him. Like, this was already a really unfavorable matchup for him. Knights score really well, so the disparity isn't crazy in points, but like, we knew how this was going to go, but it did not need to go as terribly as it ended up going on the board. Was a bummer. But yeah, so good game, Lee. Was a lot of fun, but GSC put out the hurt. Clicking on over down to Lucas's turn to play into Demons. And he is playing into Disciples of Bellicor Demons. You want to run us through this list, Nick?
Yep. We were talking about this morning, actually, because I was a little curious about what Disciples does, and Lucas, I'm sure, will tell us about it. It's led by Bellicor. He's got Paul and Penumbral Curse, so not the teleport. But he also has Shadow Lord, which is his Warlord trait. I believe that is a requirement for this Army of Renown. We got Fluxmaster, that's the Foot Zinch Herald. We got Torment Bringer on Hellflare, that's one of the Chariot Slanesh Heralds. She's got Agonies and Slothful Claws, Agonies being the 5 at Feel No Pain for Slanesh unit. She is 2x3 Nurglings, a squad of 3 Beasts of Nurgle, which I'm excited to hear about. 2 squads of 5 Fiends, 2 squads of 5 Flamers, 2 squads of 5 Fleshhounds, and then 2 House Korvax Brigands, one of which has a Blessing of the Dark Master, starting on 4 CP.
Definitely a very interesting game. The Brigands introduce like a unique problem for orcs. Obviously, chain cannons are an excellent profile into both orcs and Gretchen. So I can't do my usual thing into demons, which is like one of the best parts about playing into demons, which is basically terrain doesn't matter. And also where you stand doesn't matter. You can just kind of like use your tape measure and stand at the appropriate distance, and then that's all that really matters. If I do that, then his brigands will start chipping away at me in a very real capacity, so I actually have to hide from him, which is a kind of a headache. So I definitely liked their inclusion. They were pretty good. This ended up being a very close game. Timothy, I think this is Timothy Grant. Excellent player, great guy. We had a lot of fun. And because he can take great kill secondaries and reality rebels, the scary part for me is I have to win this game on the primary. And he identified that right away. He even kind of like turned to me on turn like 2, and he's like, "Oh my god, if I don't get my primary game in order, you're going to like you're going to win this game, and it's going to be pretty close." And that is basically what happened. He got a 41 on secondaries, and I got a 43, so pretty damn close. He's obviously going to score amazingly on Assassination. Everyone always does. No Prisoners is also going to be great, unless he gets to my Gretchen, in which case it'll be a 15. And then Reality Rebels, always going to be good, even though I'm spending the entire game in his deployment zone because that secondary is funny. I have some funny secondaries as well, obviously. What's up?
Mm-hmm. 2 comments. 1, he scored 39 on secondaries.
Yeah, I know how math works. That's right.
And second, what the is your primary, dude?
Dude, the Sir dominance over the board. This is what I realized right away when he went first. Is like if I don't just pressure his primary the entire game, this is going to be like a tie or a narrow loss because he probably has the secondary advantage unless I do something crazy. And so I just absolutely ran at him, which gave me a ton of green tide points. Denied his primary and ended up in a narrow win, 96-83 in my favor. Some interesting things happened this game. Orcs actually have a decent chance of, usually Bellicor is incredibly hard to kill. And Orcs can stack the hit modifier, so they actually can hit him on 2s. But Bellicor has that 1 CP Slanesh strat to be trans-hitman and melee, which is really bad for my army. Despite that fact, if you charge Bellicor with enough Beast Snagger units and use the +1 to wound strat, you can just beat him down hitting on 4s. Which was something I tried to do this game by throwing 2 units of pigs at him and the beast boss while he only had 1 CP, so he trans-hitmaned. But unfortunately, the wound rolls just did not go my way. With no rerolls at all, hitting on 4s, there's a lot of just gotta hit on 4s, wound on 4s, 4-up save breakpoints, and if one of those goes poorly for me, all of a sudden Bellicor is just chilling. And I ended up even he went from full health down to 4 wounds, even through the 4-up trans-hitman strat, which was really impressive. And considering my terrible dice was also very impressive. But yeah, managed to get him down super low while the rest of my army just took the rest of the board. And so Bellicor spent a couple more turns cutting through orcs, and then suddenly, stumbled across the line on 3 wounds left onto my side of the board, and then the game ended. So, definitely the right call would have been to ignore him, but it is nice to have that tool in your pocket of you can just burst him down with the 2 CP +1 wound strat. But great game overall. It was a lot of fun. There was very little alive at the end of the game, which was always the way orc games should go, and I just had a ton of fun.
Very nice. For the record, did you score direct assault on turn 5 and just not put it in?
No, I did not.
Oh, it's a bummer. 3 points away from the clean sweep. Good stuff, man. That sounds like an awesome game.
I had 10 Beast Snagger boys chilling on his home field objective, turn 3, 4, and 5. They just dumped out, huffed over there, annihilated a herald, and then just stood there for the rest of the game.
Did you not own every objective?
What's that?
You didn't own every objective?
No, the Beast of Nurgle. Oh my god, this is the Beast of Nurgle, bro. This unit sucks to fight. So they're actually so they have a 5-up save in melee, which initially sounds not that impressive, but they are T6, 7 wounds. If you can spend 2 CP on some Nurgle strat to give them -1 to hit in combat, which sounds absolutely god-awful, but what you do is if your opponent hard commits to them, you use that strat -1 to wound. You Bellicor their most important unit to make it -1 to wounded melee with Penumbral Curse. That's pretty good. And then there's something else. No, I think that's it. But you can basically make the enemy -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and then cutting through
last.
and fights last. And cutting through the 21 Beast and Nurgle wounds is absolutely miserable. I tried it for several turns, and I didn't even kill one with multiple units of my army just going in. Oh, I did 6 damage. He heals to full. Okay, here comes the war boss. 6 damage. Oh, he healed to full. Okay. Beast put him down to 2 wounds. Beast kill him in the next turn. Fight on death. Okay, 6 more damage. Okay, this beast has taken 18 damage and not died. Nice.
All right, you heard it here first. 9 Beasts and Nurgle counter to orcs confirmed.
True. Yeah. I mean, they're funny because they hit on 4s, but every 6 does 2 mortals. So when you give them Chapter Master and you just fish, there's no cap to the mortals. So if you roll 6 or 7
you have
sixes,
18 attacks. 6 is average.
Yeah, that's 12 mortals and then the normal swings. So
Oh my god! All right.
they definitely
Amazing.
hurt. And
Fun.
with Bellacor's attrition and stuff like that, the Army of Renown also has a strat to when enemy models run away, you heal up to, I think it's 6 for every model that runs. So there were definitely a couple moments that were scary leadership-wise.
Can you use that on the Beast and Nurgle?
I believe so.
Oh my god, dude!
And it revives them if there's a guy at full
Oh
health.
my
Yeah.
god, dude!
Yeah, it's
You
predominantly.
finally get down to the one dude. He pops to full. All right, cool. And then he heals another dude back who pops to full. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
the peak
hilarious.
leadership moment of the game was Be'lakor uppercutted Killrig. One guy tripped on the way out. I fail morale on a 6. I rolled a 6. I'm -3 attrition or 2 attrition or whatever because of Be'lakor, and I roll like 7 1s and 2s, and all of a sudden there's one knob left, and I'm like, all right, I got some obsec, so I own this objective. Nice, you.
That's also even dumber. One guy trips on the way out. His 8 guys flee, and the surviving guy is like holding the objective from Be'lakor.
Classic Lucas moment. I love it. All right,
Ninth edition,
cool.
baby.
So let's
Ninth
keep
edition,
things
let's go.
moving here. Coming into Nick playing into Tausept here. Nick, did you not write this down? Oh, this person's name is Zach. Yes, okay. Cool. I know a thing or two about Tau. Let's talk about this Tau list. We're playing Tausept. We got our boy Enva with Zephyr's Grace and Sense of Stone. He gives you a CP. We got a Cold Star with Precision of the Hunter for all the rerolls, Solid Image Projection Unit for a little bit of defense. We got the Thermoneutronic Projector because why wouldn't you? It's the funny Relic Flamer. We got a Plasma, a Burst, a High Output Burst. So we're going 4 guns in the Solid Image to keep you defended. 2 Marker Drones. We got Shadow Sun with Exemplar of the Kalyon. We got Long Dong with Through Boldness Victory. That is some sweet tech. Love that thing. We got a 5-man Crisis Squad with Burst, Sib, Plasma. And then we got our usual Chasseret with Iridium, Shield Stims. Everyone else has target locks. No EWO in the squad. And a Marker Drone. We got a trio of Stealth Suits with a Marker Drone. We got 2 squads of Crew Dogs. We got a 3-man broadside unit. That's kind of the new hotness for Tau right now. Is it actually any good? We'll find out in a minute. They got their usual rail rifles, stabilized optics, twin smart missile systems, and they only have 2 shield drones to go along with them. And speaking of 2, we got 2 Riptides with double plasma, EWOs, ion accelerators, as you might have expected. A single shielded missile drone each, a target lock, and a velocity tracker with 1 CP to round it all out. So this is sort of a pretty impressive Tau build in terms of output, not pretty impressive in terms of board control or missional play. How did this game go, Nick?
Yep. So I played 1 practice game into Tau on the Scouring into our buddy Tanner. And we kind of learned that it's a weird game where both players are trying to screen out stuff if you bring planes. If the Tau's bringing planes, the Iron Hands is trying to screen out the planes from their backfield while trying to pressure, and the Tau player is trying to screen out the pod. A big reason why they can screen out the pod is that detached drone stratagem. They can detach drones in the command phase, and the drones become their own unit, and the drones fly up, and now it's like, here's the screen of 2 idiots that's going to push your pod even further back. So I do win Defender on this one, which is pretty big because we are playing on such a board. We're playing on a board with all window terrain, so it's pretty spooky into Tau because like fly across the board, touch, unlock. So I made sure that my castle wasn't close enough to the edge of the DZ, right? Which we're also very close because we're playing corners. So, and the maximum he can move is 18. So I'm like, all right, my castle terrain with all the desos behind it's going to be more than 18 away. So you can't go first, fly over, touch, blast all my desos. I have a piece of terrain that's thin enough to hold the middle from behind the wall. So because of that, I'm going to take oaths because even if I go first, I can put a thing wholly within 6 behind the wall and be like, you must now come out to the middle to touch it, see me, and you can't strike and fade back behind your own wall because it's too far away and your bases are too big. So if you send the crisis in, they're dead. I also took banners. Similar thing. I have infiltrators I can put on the top objective so I can at least get a 10 with potential upside. It's another way to force them to come to the middle. And I took shock tactics because my other 2 secondaries are forcing them to come to the middle. And I'm like, if you don't come to the middle, I'm going to get max primary. And every time you take the middle from me, I'll get 4 points. Sounds good. Luckily for me, I did end up going first. I don't think it's a huge advantage going first in this matchup for either player because he has redeploy, so he can redeploy pretty defensively, even if he deploys aggressively. and I set up my terrain defensively enough that he's not going to destroy a huge chunk of my army going first. He'll like kill the infiltrators behind the wall, but like is what it is. I pulled a unit out. I've accomplished my goal. Because of how his terrain is set up, he spent a lot of his terrain like blocking a lot of like close angles, if that makes sense. And he wasn't able to fully hide his Riptides from my character Dreadnought walking out. So he gets to shoot one Riptide. I'm like, Mercy's weakness, kill the shield drone, put the Riptide to 6, pass to you, right? That's like my first turn is basically like getting some stuff in places, putting up some banners. Also, another thing I've learned that's very strong in a town, killing the Kroot Hounds, obviously, with the Desos is very good. So he elected to put the Kroot Hounds in strat reserves. Shooting at stealth suits is a little bit of a trap because you're -2 to hit into them. So one of the best things is actually shooting all of your blastable guns into the Crisis Squad, because while they have the drones in them, you're getting max shots with the little launchers and you're getting a -3 with the Vengor. He deployed outside of range of the little launchers, so I just shoot the 3 damage Vengor over there to see what I can do. Kills both the drones, and then he has to take the save, and he's like, I'll take the save on a normal guy because I don't want to start wounding my sergeant yet. Kills a normal guy. So, I guess it starts not 2 drones. So it kills marker drone, kills us like a crisis. So turn 1, he's only got 4 crisis left. And I'm like, all right, this is already dumb. So the impetus is on the Tau player to come to me, but my entire game plan is making it as taxing as possible for him to come take the middle from me. And he just kind of pushes up his screen with Riptides. I drop the pod in, I pick up the Riptides. I start shelling the crisis some more. Eventually he commits the crisis like turn 3 to help kill the Devastators, and then I fly Vanguard Vets over. My whole goal is like, he doesn't have a crisis commander, so I'm just I was trying to stop him from falling back and shooting, which he can't do, so I'm trying to stop him from moving the crisis and shooting. The Vanguard Vets go in, I'm like, I have 2 CP, or I have 1 CP, might as well Mercy his weakness, and I kill like the sergeant and like 2 more crisis, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. There's a single crisis left. And yep, it was kind of it at that point. He gets some points here and there, but I just made it too taxing to come to the middle, and he took too long to come to the middle, and I was just able to whittle him down with Vanguard Vet Squads being thrown at him, Devastators being thrown at him, and Desos being thrown at him. So it ends up being a 96-49 victory for the Iron Hands. So pretty much what I've learned about this, it's pretty bad if the Tau hang back and wait, but the Tau want to hang back and wait because they want to wait for Kalyan to turn on. But you just do too much damage to them every turn they wait to come to commit to you. So
yeah, absolutely. I think Tau have sort of fallen into that similar place of Eldar, where like if you want to beat Tau, slam them hard, slam them early, and don't let them do their late game nonsense. It's a good recipe for success. Very cool. All right, so 2-0 at the end of round 2. Ooh, for everyone, feeling pretty good. Moving on into round 3, and this is where we deviate from our play backwards through the pack here, because we should be playing Tide of Conviction, which I would love, but instead we are playing the Scouring. And who do we know that loves the Scouring?
Mr. Trimble.
Here we go again. All right. What the hell is this Trimble list that I'm playing into? Nick, you play Space Marines.
Yep, I'm a Space Marine expert now, so I'll explain this. So we're playing Black Templars. Very sick choice. We got Grimaldus with his 5-up Feel No Pain litany and his +1 attack litany. We got Helbrecht. We got a squad of 5 infiltrators. We've got 2 of the new Brutalis dreadnoughts with their little talons and heavy bolters and a bunch of other free guns. We got a Judiciar with Oathkeeper. That's the 6-inch heroic and Rights of War. We got a Primaris Apothecary. He's Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer, and he's got Crusader's Helm. Very cool relic that picks a core unit, I believe, within 6 in the command phase and puts them in Assault Doctrine, which is really cool because then he puts that on the 10 Assault Terminators with Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, and Champion of the Feast. That's the 4-wound Terminator Sergeant with -1 damage. There's a squad of 9 Desos with Super Crack and the Vengor Launcher, and 3 Gladiator Reapers with their free Multi-Melta for being Black Templars. This list starts on 1 CP, and it's got a lot of cool tech, a lot of cool choices.
Yeah, so props to Trimble. This list is very cool. 3 Gladiator Reapers and 9 Desolators with Chapter Master. Hard pass, bro. This matchup is miserable. It's about as bad as it gets. I feel like I probably have better play into this than I do into Lucas, but probably not than I have into Nick. I don't know. This is so terrifying. There are so many bullets coming out of these things. Each Gladiator Reaper, I believe, has 46 shots. What are we doing here, boys? And they're all AP like 2. Cool. Why not? So this is real scary. I play this in Detroit. I play this on stream. If you go over to Warboard Battle Labs on YouTube, you can find it. It's in the day one, the last couple hours of the stream. We're playing like there's some missional play stuff that I can do here, and if I get to go first, I can actually do a lot of damage, edge control, and move blocking nonsense. But nope, we're going second for the 3rd time today on the worst mission in a bad matchup. I needed one of those things to go well, and none of them did. At least I got to be defender, so there's a forest in the middle, so he's not, hiding behind a wall. He still puts a wall all down in the center there, so that he can get oats from behind it. But yeah, it's a yikes situation. If I God, Trimble, he's in the audience. You deployed terribly, dude. If I went first, I would have killed the Desolators top 1. What are we doing, boy? What are we doing? But he realizes his mistakes. Turn 1, rapidly runs over to try to fix them. We play some points nonsense. We bounce around. On my drop turn, I'm able to not get the infiltrators die bottom 1, which is great. And then turn 2, I come in and I kill 8 Desolators or 7 Desolators. I kill them down to like 1 or 2 dudes, which feels great. And I'm able to kill one of the Reapers, and I thought that I wrapped the other one, but I bodged it apparently, and Steve got out, which was a massive bummer. Doesn't change a ton, but probably should just killed it. Was getting too cute. Steve reserved the 3rd Reaper, which was annoyingly intelligent. If he has all 3 Reapers on the table and I drop in and kill 3 Reapers and do decent damage to Desolators, then we're in this game. But no, I can't have a Reaper showing up and just obliterating a squad of neophytes on site. It's too much damage too quickly. Secondaries is wise. Steve took banners. He didn't put any banners up turn 1 on the scouring. He didn't put any banner. He put 1 banner up turn 2 on the center objective, just a flex, and still got a 9 on it because it's new the last. He took oaths and got a 12. Trimble opens this game by taking oaths, banners, and prisoners, which is illegal. And then he swaps out prisoners for grind, which is also illegal. And he eventually settled on assassinate, which he gets a 9 on. He took oaths over prisoners, despite my repeated telling him not to do that. He got a 12 when he could have had a 15. But anyway, I can give Steve shit all day, but he won the game. He took me down. Final score ends up being 78-52. I'm not salty. It was a really hard matchup. And we had some fun. We had a good time. So props to Steve for that. I needed one more thing to go through. Yes, Steve has knocked me out round 3 of 2 events in a row now, which is deeply insulting. The last one was 100% my fault. That was me not doing math and trying to get too cute. This game, I feel like I did everything more or less right, with like 1 or 2 small exceptions. It was hopeless. The Terminators literally never made combat because I kited them really well and I excavated in the right place. He's got forests in the right place. Like it didn't matter. There's not a way to win this matchup. If you're so much better than me and you can win this with this list, props to you. That's real cool. That's not where I'm at right now.
Cool. What bow did he take into you?
He took 5 up invul baby transhuman for sure. If I get to wound him on 2s, or he doesn't have an invul, things get a lot spicier.
All right.
But yeah, clicking over next, we got Lucas playing into Grey Knights, playing into Rapiers round 3. Do you know anything about Grey Knights, Nick?
I know probably more than you, but Lucas probably knows the most.
I can run over this if you want.
Yeah, Lucas, talk to us about your own Grey Knights, because I know you know Grey Knights pretty well.
So the Rapiers have a Warp Charge 6 psychic power to give +1 attack, and their Stratus 6s explode, so they can really juice up the small MSU 5-man squads really nice and good. This is Tommy, I think his name is, playing Grey Knights. He ended up doing very well in the event overall, so very well played to him, using a codex that isn't necessarily like the cream of the crop right now, and doing very well with it, so mad respect. He had a chaplain with Words of Power. That's the ridiculous, if it goes off on a 3, any unit that touches gets hit by Words of Power instantly dies. The actual text is 6 is to wound or 2 wounds and 2 mortals. And what the hell is presage paralysis? I don't know what that is. Librarian with all the mortal wound stuff. We got a nemesis dread knight with the teleporty thing and the 3 up inboom. We got 15 strike marines. We got 30 interceptors and 2 nemesis dread knights, starting with 3 CP. So the tail of the tape in this game is I took my normal defensive stuff. I took good bits. I took green tide. This is on the scouring. And I took bring it down. No prisoners. Figured I'd kill his infantry. Granted, infantry is mad squishy for whatever reason. And he tells me he's taking, well, teleport assault because it's ridiculous. And then behind enemy lines and retrieve data. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I go first and I'm looking at the scoreboard and I think if I don't move a muscle, he gets a 0 on those 2 secondaries and I get a 25 on mine. Pass to you, brother. I do absolutely nothing on turn 1. And he's,
Let's go.
This is wild. You didn't wog and run across the table on turn 1. And I'm like, indeed. So we just play a kind of a slow, coy trading game for the first turn or 2. And then this was a game I actually reserved all 3 rigs, maybe just 2 of them. But I used them coming in off of board edges and ramming speed, storm boys and biker boss and pigs running up to just throw everything into his face on turn. I think it was like top of 3, and just overwhelmed him on turn 3, and he never really caught up. Really won this game. I mean, I ended up winning on secondaries, but the biggest deal was the primary. He just kind of ran out of things for strategic scan. Funny moment from this game. I almost scanned every objective on the table. On the last turn, he had a 1 wound librarian hanging on the 5th objective that I was going to go strat scan. I'm like, you little rat. So I didn't quite manage to scan all the objectives, which I thought would have been really funny. But just blew him out on the primary, and there was not a lot he could do. He did his absolute best to scrap back. He made some fun plays doing gate to get characters into the behind enemy lines, and then his actual last retrieve battlefield data was very funny. Retrieve battlefield data this game on turn 1. 5 interceptors attempted it and failed on a 6 because they're not troops. And then on turn 5, his chaplain is like, I'm chilling in the backfield and I only have my Stormbolter. I can't do anything else. R&D. And he rolled a 1.
Let's go.
It's just like clown shit.
Rock and roll, brother.
So yeah, that was pretty fun. And then Drago moved 5 inches every turn across the table directly toward my DZ, and then ended up in my DZ for +1 behind enemy lines point. It's excellent. But yeah, very fun game. GG to Tommy. It was a fun one, but just the usual orcs overwhelm the opponent's primary game here.
Very cool. Alrighty. Moving on down the line. I know that Nick has never played into Demons before, so how's Demons, Nick? We're playing into... Oh, is this into our boy Charles?
This isn't a Chuck.
Charles! All right. I'll talk about this list because I definitely know it pretty well at this point. Chuck's playing Demons. This is Chuck of Best Infection, the older generation. He's got the Bloodthirster with Argath and Devastating Blows and Domitable Onslaught, wound caps and does a ton of damage and all that good stuff. He's got a Fate Skimmer. Oh, I'm sorry. He's got a Chariot on Herald on Chariot of Tzeentch with a staff with bolts of change and infernal flames. He's got a Slaanesh, a Herald of Slaanesh on foot with Symphony of Pain. He's got a Sloppity Bile Piper with the Entropic Knell. Let's go. For those of y'all who are big fans of the show, the Sloppity Bile Piper is like a demon Clamavis. He point and clicks and turns off actions in OBSEC, and the Entropic Knell lets him command phase, tell a unit, nope, you actually have half as many models as it looks like you do for the purposes of holding objectives, which is hilarious. He's got 3 squads of 10 pinks, a squad of 10 letters, 3x5 flamers, 3 exalted flamers, a squad of 5 seekers, which, man, if you're a Demons player and you haven't tried seekers yet, that unit is funny. And he's got a skull cannon, which is a great little piece of tech. He's starting off at 3 CP. Great little list. How'd this go, Nick?
Yeah. This one's a little bit harder because we are playing on a board with no windows. And Chuck gets Defender, and it's the Scouring. So I'm like, all right, primary-wise, we're going to trade. I also end up going first. So I'm like, primary is we're going to trade. I have to put him on some 4s, not let him put me on 4s because he's probably going to get a 12 at the end. The pinks are a humongous issue. I can't kill them efficiently in shooting, and I definitely don't want them to split all over the place for free. The Bloodthirster is also an issue because on the Scouring, he's very close, unlike Secure Missing Artifacts. So the wound cap is very scary because I can shoot him once, shoot him twice, and then I have to like go melee him or shoot him a third time. Spooky. And then other things, secondary wise, what I chose, I ended up choosing Assassinate in this one. He doesn't give up Bring It Down like JT did. He does give up a bunch of Assassinate. And I'm like, chances are that Transweaver's probably going in the middle for Warp Ritual. That Thirster's coming right at me. And then at some point, I expect to maybe kill like an Exalted Flamer or Fate Skimmer. I'm like, I'll get like I'll be fine with a 10-12 on this, right? I also believe I elected for Banners and Shock Tactics. Same thing here. Banners, I'm trying to pull him over to my side of the board, and I'm trying to shock him back. I also think we're going to be fighting over the middle a lot, so Shock Tactics seems pretty good here. I go first. I'm able to move the Contemptor up to shoot a squad of pinks. We both look at each other, and I'm like, I have no idea if this one-shots you, but I sure hope it does. And I spend 1 CP on Mercy's weakness, and I kill 9 pinks, which is the worst thing to have happen. He rolls 9 splits. Luckily, only 3 split. So we have 6 blues and a pink. All right. Deso squad, go kill them. Deso squad kills them. Let's go. All right, don't have to worry about that squad of pinks. The other squad of pinks, I have 2 squads of 5 Vanguard vets, which is like my only melee in the list, and I'm saving them for the other squads of pinks. I'm able to like, we're kind of playing this kind of weird back and forth game for a bit, where I try to like flip primary a few times. I have at one point a squad of the 5 scouts go and charge the Herald on foot, and I have a pretty, I'm pretty sure they'll kill her because like she has 5 up saves and 4 wounds. I only need to get like a Thunderhammer and another wound through. My Thunderhammer unfortunately gets 3 hits, 1 wound, wounding on 2s. I CP reroll, which I don't like to do in this, but I'm like seeing a bunch of bad things flash before my eyes. CP reroll a 1 into a 1, and Chuck makes the 5-up save. And then she kills all the scouts back, so I don't shock tactics. He gets another free point of Warp Ritual, and he gets another free point of middle for reality. And I was like, that was very unfortunate. But unfortunately, I had the Vanguard vets going in the same turn into a squad of pinks, and they had to use Mercy's weakness on the pinks to guarantee one-shotting them. I mean, maybe someone doing the math knows that you don't need to do it, but I'm like, this is my first time ever punching pinks. I'm not risking them splitting and me losing the game because of that. Chuck, eventually, he kind of screens out the bod for the first 2 turns, but he kind of runs out of stuff to like screen because he's throwing stuff forward, and I drop the pod into the backfield, and I'm able to circumvent Lookout Star on a few characters. So I like erase an Exalted Flamer, get some points. I shoot at Fate Skimmer. He makes a few saves. You know, unfortunate is what it is. And then I also like start deleting his OBSEC. So the pinks are all gone. I've like charged the other squad. The letters he brought in, I kill with the grab from the pod. And at this point, I think I've put him on 4s at least once or twice. And things haven't gone super well for me yet. Like I had like the play, like trying to like flip an objective, which didn't work. I had trying to kill the Transweaver, which didn't work. But then Chuck's dice start to flip the other way. And he has 5 Vanguard vets in his face. And he's like, well, Fate Skimmer with casting and like charging and shooting should kill them. And he gets them down to 1. And that one Fate Skimmer goes, or that one, you know, Vanguard vet does a few wounds to Fate Skimmer. And then doesn't fail morale. And then the objective's contested. So, bummer. Yeah. This is when it starts to swing the other way for me. The Thirster has come down in the middle and is starting to do spooky stuff, and I shoot him a few times. He's down to 3 because when he killed a speeder, it blew up and did a moral to him. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I think I need to kill his Thirster now. So we send in, because it's like turn 4. So we send in the Heroic Lieutenant, and we send in the Heroic Tech Marine. Because I'm like, if Chuck puts me on a 4 and or tears down a banner, he might win this game. We charge both of them. They both make their charge. And we fight first the Lieutenant. Because the idea here is we have 2 CP. We're going to fight first the Lieutenant. Chuck also has 2 CP. I believe he has 3. But he has enough for interrupt, basically. So if I fight first the Lieutenant, he now has the choice of interrupt the Tech Marine who hasn't gone yet, but then my Rights of War lives and I own the objective. Or split attacks and maybe not kill the Tech Marine. He is like 2 CP, interrupt into the Tech Marine. I still have 2 CP for fight on death, so this isn't that bad of a trade for me. Whiffs, though. Bottom bracket, Thirster did not kill the Tech Marine. Puts him on 2. Tech Marine then is like, all right, we're going to use those 2 CP for +1 to hit, 6s to wound, explode. Comes in with the servo arm, 2 hits, 3 wounds, 2 failed saves, kills the Thirster.
Let's go, Bartholomew! Absolute legend.
Anyways, that was very funny. Maybe a little riskier than I needed, but we win the game from there because Fate Skimmer tries to come in and clear up the guys in the middle and like mega whiffs on all his casts. And Chuck's like, oh my God, dude, it's coming back the other way. No. And we end up, I think, winning 88-74.
That is correct.
Yep. Close game. Can be sketchy. Learned a lot. Super fun. I love fighting demons, honestly. Always a little terrifying. So yeah, great game to Chuck.
Good time. Very cool. All right, so end of the day one. Nick and Lucas are 3-0. I'm down in 2-1. And Chuck is also now 2-1. And continuing on, we're going to wrap on 4, going into conversion. We're going to try to keep moving because we've been dragging on for a bit here. It's my turn to play Chuck. So Nick takes him down and throws him down to the loser's bracket, and time for a combo move and see what I can do to him. I'm not going to read you the list again because you already heard it. Didn't even plan that we do these back to back. This game was so much fun. Oh my gosh. So Chuck and I have played a lot. He knows how I play. He knows how to deal with a lot of my nonsense. And this game was a really interesting sort of evolution of that because Chuck knows that I am liable to overcommit neophytes, and as a result gives me a bunch of like incredible opportunities to do so. Like Chuck will do this thing where he gets out a 3-inch measurement and screens all the 3-inch places and then leaves this like one really obvious place and goes, yeah, just nothing I can do about that. If you go there, you're shooting at me. Cool. And keeps going. And like is just really, really hoping that I drop in that one spot that he has set up for me, that he is just like, I just couldn't screen it. It's a bummer. And I'm like, that is bait. That is bait. I'm not taking it, but I really want to. But have stolen so many objectives, but we're not doing that. This is the first game where I finally go first, I think. Yeah, I went first in this game. That's how Chuck ends up with a 12, right? Yeah, I'm fairly sure I went first here. And Chuck's like, all right, so you're going to blitz across the table and obliterate me? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. We're doing none of that. I took ambush, I took RBD, and I took behind. And I was like, that Bloodthirster is very scary. I would like it to stay in your deployment zone. We're playing conversion. No charges for you. I will just flip around and have my Reductus throw a couple shots at it, and the Sanctus as well, and some grenade launchers, I think. And we end up doing some amount of damage to it, like 6, I think, in total, which is pretty great. So then Chuck flies in with his Bloodthirster and slams him in the center of the table and says, what are you going to do about it? He puts pinks up the flanks and stuff. And I'm like, all right, it's tempting here to go deep and go crazy, and we're not going to do that. So I throw a full squad of bikes at the Bloodthirster. And between the bikes and the Reductus, do 8 wounds, get him down to 6, charge in with the bikes, huck a demo in combat, 6 shots, 6 hits, 5 wounds, 5 passed saves. And I'm like, oh, that's a problem. Here's the rest of the weapons that I've spent the CP for +1 strength on. I don't think I spent the CP for reroll all wounds, but I spent the CP for +1 damage on the demo and +1 strength on the melee. And I'm like, all right, cool. Here's a bunch of hits. Great. Rerolling 1s. Wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s. And I wound him 7 times somehow. And he fails 6 out of 7 of those. Rerolls and fails again. And I kill the Bloodthirster. And I'm like, this is the expected result. This is not how we expected to get there. But yeah, so the Bloodthirster does go down in combat. Those bikes take over pretty well. And then I drop in Neo squads like up the flanks in as safe of positions as possible, such that they can go after the 2 squads of pinks that he's put forward. The top squad going after the squad of pinks that are just kind of chilling there. Webbers, Seismics, boom, that squad ceases to exist. The bottom squad, Webbers, Seismics, rerolls, and I spent a CP on treating them as exposed within 12, just in case, because I needed them to die. The Webbers kill 7, so I have 24 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, wounding on 2s. I need him to fail 3 3-up invulns. fails 2. And I don't have the shotguns lined up to take shots into them. So this is where his luck from Nick's game bounces back, and he has 8 of the 9 dudes who died split and puts 16 blues on the table. I'm just like, oh, well, when you put it that way.
God, Pink's in such a silly unit. I love it.
Yeah, they are. So hilariously, though, this squad is the perfect ambush squad. Oh, they didn't need creatures exposed. Maybe they did 6s on it. I don't know. So they're set up just within 12 because I want them as far back as possible while getting all their damage. So they have to be within 12 to activate perfect ambush. And then Chuck splits and piles a bunch of guys out toward me. And then it's the charge phase, and I'm like, wait a second. You're like 6.3 inches away from me now. And I deep struck more than 8 away. Guess I'll make a 6-inch charge +1 from my banner. And I 5-inch charge out of deep strike onto his objective, which he still holds because he's got OBSEC there. But like now he's in combat with this squad of pinks and blues, which he doesn't want to be. And I'm tagging flamers. He's sitting his flamers back. We're doing a lot of this KG back and forth nonsense. I'm only half dropping. Got 2 squads still off the table. But his Bloodthirster is down, and his Bloodletters come in. They go after the bikes to kill the Bloodthirster. They immediately evaporate, and now he's out of melee. And his flamers keep getting tagged. So now I just get to touch everything, swarm the table, do a lot of nonsense. My behind is a little bit sketchy, but I get there for the 4 points on the end of that. This game came down to time, which was a bummer. Like we both played full 5 turns, but like I would doing a half and half drop turn when I'm trying to be really meticulous like this takes a long time. And something that Chuck actually, he DM'd me later to point this out, and I think is a really smart idea. He thinks that I spent a lot of my time like walking back and forth from my tray to the table to get these big bricks of Neos out in place. And he's like, why don't you get like a bunch of little like cardboard or some kind of inserts that live in your tray that's just you pick up the whole squad and walk over and set it up so you're not doing all this back and forth nonsense and organizing everything. I think that's a really smart idea. I'm definitely going to be doing that the next couple of days or weeks. So hopefully we'll get some time of that. But yeah, so because of that, my turn 4 and 5, I'm activating like half of my units to get places, which is why this ends up being a lot tighter than it needs to be. There's a lot of denial that I could have done that doesn't end up working out. But yeah, I end up getting a full 45 on primary, as you tend to on Death and Zeal. I get a full 15 on ambush. I get a full 12 on RBD. I get an 8 on behind. Bit of a bummer, but that's how it went. Chuck, by contrast, gets 38 on primary, 15 on reality, only an 8 on Despoilers of Reality because I'm tagging all his nonsense, and then a full 15 on No Prisoners because he played the game. So yeah, I end up winning this game 90-86. It was awesome. Hopefully Chuck talks about it some more on OG, and you can get a little bit more in depth there because they don't have as many games to talk about because they've only got 1 guy at this event, not 3. But awesome game, Chuck. Tons of fun. Really excited to go into round 5, 3, and 1. Moving down the line, continuing on this trend of playing into people that we've played before, Trimble jumps off of me like Mario stomping on a Koopa and jumps right up into the other. I guess Lucas is the turtle. He used green. Maybe I'm a rat. I don't know. Anyway, metaphors aside, it's time to talk about Trimble versus Lucas, round 4. Playing Trimble's other favorite mission in addition to the Scouring, which is, corners. And Steve comments, "It's the man" in all caps. So Lucas, talk about how your game into this particular monkey went.
Well, yeah. In a shocking turn of events, he deployed his whole army on the line, and of course, he went first because why wouldn't he? The Desolators were pretty painful. I'm not used to getting shot. I mean, this was my first game into Desolators, but usually they don't have Chapter Master. Just for some reason, the ones I keep playing against do. But yeah, those guys with full hit rerolls are a lot scarier than just the reroll 1s to hit 1s. And ended up picking up 10 Storm Boys, and he came in, crashed, killed 2 kill rigs, 1 with shooting, 1 with melee. My clapback was actually pretty savage because he had to move up to get all those lines of sight on my kill rigs and to just put himself in a position to charge. I was able to basically charge most of the stuff I wanted to. And on turn 1, I killed 2 Reapers and 2 Dreadnoughts, which was pretty good. Also set myself up for success positioning-wise, just around the board. The Terminators, I could have gone after them this turn with my full force before Steve really has like a lot of CP for an interrupt and like +1 to hit on them or something like that. Especially because the Terminators didn't have Chapter Master. In my head, there's like 2 great targets for Chapter Master in this list. I mean, it's fairly obvious, right? You can either put it on the Terminators or you can put it on the Desolators. Considering they didn't have Feel No Pain and the and Chapter Master, I could have just slammed them with my entire army that turn and probably killed most of them. But then the issue is that I just get mowed down by all the Reapers and Brutalis and stuff like that. And I took Big Game Hunter, so I figured let's knock out as many tanks as we can immediately, and I get 4 of them, which was pretty good. But from here, it is just a downhill battle of his last Reaper is mowing through whatever units he can see. The characters are helping clean up remnant units, and the Terminators are just living in the middle of the board. And after turn 2, I have nothing in my army that can deal with them. So I try to get some points back by flipping his backfield. I keep tagging his Desolators with Storm Boys and Pigs. So they do only shoot once, and then every turn thereafter they are getting tagged, which is pretty wonderful. But in the end, it is just not enough. The Terminators living in the middle of the board, making their way into my objective. Conversion and Death and Zeal are already very iffy missions for Get the Good Bits. It's obviously still an insane secondary, but if you fall behind on the board tempo and aren't able to get your Gretchen into the right place, it can end up being a very low score. And so in this game, I ended up getting a 6 on it. This is the one game card I actually misplaced. So I might have a couple of these points wrong, but this is the general gist of it. We just wasn't able to set myself up behind ruins and in the right spots to get green bits and get the good tide. Green tide and get the good bits. And just a couple of narrow angles with Reapers and Desolators and that kind of thing meant that he ended up picking a more Gretchen than I was anticipating. I'm trying this new strategy where I outflank Gretchen so that opponents that I know are going to hard commit to the middle of the table or are very light on the ground, like, is true in this list for both. I can just outflank 10 Gretchen, have them scurry onto an objective, get some primary, get some good bits, get a point on green tide every turn. But Steve ended up seeing 1 Grot with the ass end of his Reaper and picked up the entire squad, which was like minus 15 points, which was very tragic. And then a couple of late game swings just meant that unfortunately this game was a little bit too far away for me to handle. Definitely felt hurt by having the 2 secondaries. I mean, Steve took oaths, but he very easily could have taken no prisoners and he would have gotten a 15 on it. So that it's games like this where the primary is going to be close, where orcs really struggle in that they give up 2 kill secondaries very easily. Was able to deny shock tactics very well using a lot of those strategies Tyler talked about earlier on in our episode here of try to don't take objectives back from Marines, but rather contest them so that they get the -4 primary, and they also do not have that objective as an eligible shock tactics target. So was able to keep Steve to a 4 on that, but that was the only points I really denied. Everything else was just him walking all over me. And that was definitely facilitated by going first. So he also took the oath for 5-up invuln here, which was pretty good considering the high strength of orcs. But yeah, not too much else going on here for this game.
Yeah, something else to mention in terms of shock tactics, especially when you're playing on a mission like Conversion or especially Death and Zeal, is that kind of do the math, check how much primary you're actually denying. If your opponent's probably getting a 45 anyway, right? It's like for example, if they're going second on Death and Zeal, they get 45 if they're playing the game. Just don't stand on the objective at all. Let them have the primary. It's not worth anything. Deny the secondary. But yeah, very cool. Big bummer. So Steve is 2 TNG down, 1 to go. And he's probably feeling pretty good about himself. I mean, he built a good list and he's executing on it well enough, it seems. This brings us over to our boy Nicholas playing into Mitchell Hunter, who he beats at top table to win Slaneshmus. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Correct. So fun little rematch there. Slightly different matchup here. But Mitchell is known for his Custodes. Lucas, you want to walk us through this particular brand of Custodes? It's a bit straightforward.
Sure. We got an Emperor's Chosen list with a Shield Captain on bike, 5 Feel No Pain, the Redeploy, and the Reader 1 Hit and Wound. Trajan with his warlord traits, 2 squads of 3 Venatari, 3 squads of 5 bikes with missiles, and an acolyte, starting at 3 CP. Took me 10 seconds to read that list. Hilarious.
Respect.
Yeah. So yeah, Custodes. Mitchell knew he didn't want to get shot, and I didn't want to get alpha because they have one of their stances that lets you advance and shoot with no penalty, and the bikes auto advance 6, and I believe they move 14. So it's like I need to deploy my castle ruin 20 inches away from his line, and since we're playing quarters again, we're very close. I luckily win defender. I slam a force in the middle, slightly off center in such a way that my Desos from the castle can shoot into his castle without taking the dense penalty, unless he wants to go like way away, but then like he's not near me, which is cool. I also took shock tactics because I figured we were going to be scrapping a lot. And I took... No, I didn't take shock. No, I took shock. Sorry. I took shock. I took assassinate and no prisoners because I figured he told me at the start of the game, he's like, I'm deploying on the line and running right at you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Assassinate no prisoners. He comes back with the Chad secondaries as well. He takes assassinate no prisoners behind. I almost considered taking behind because I'm like, he's running everything at me. So we both look at each other. He's got a wall slightly off the objective. I've got a force. I've got a castle. I go first. And he's like, God damn it. And so he redeploys everything like behind the wall. Custodes sadly don't have any screening units. So the pod arrives, and the pod kills 6 bikes, 3 in each squad.
Oh, that is heinous.
It kills 6 bikes and a Venatari and 2/3. I think there might have been some Desos helping
Cool,
take off
dude.
like a bike in there, but yeah.
Excellent.
Mitchell's like, don't think I can win this game anymore, but I'm going to go kill those infiltrators, goddammit. And he flies over with his 1 untouched 5-man bike squad, deletes some infiltrators. He flies a 2-man over to a squad of infiltrators and does not delete them because Helix gauntlets are funny. And then sprints Trajan into the middle, and he's like, kill this guy. And bike captain flies behind a wall. And then he has some Venatari go hold an objective. And then he goes to answer the pod with 2 bikes and 3 Venatari. And he shoots like a lot of them to death, charges them. Venatari kill one of the squads down to a guy and a half. And you know that one of the guys remaining is a sergeant. The other guys delete the other Devastator squad. So my sergeant goes, Thunderhammer Sergeant. 2 hits, 1 explosion, 3 hits, 3 wounds. Give me 3 4-ups, Mitchell. Fails all of them. And I'm like, all right, that is 3 dead Venatari, dude. Free Thunderhammers are little stupid. Yep, we respond by basically killing everything that he lets us see. And he still has some guys behind walls, but he's like, you win, dude. Like, that's it. I've got like some bikes and some Venatari. Like 2 bikes, 2 Venatari, and like the captain.
Yikes.
And yeah, just an example of, going second into a shooting matchup that got defender and trying to brute force it and does not work. So Mitchell definitely deployed as well as he could, made correct decisions, tried to hide as best as he could, but not a lot of ways to mitigate my clot back because I designed the board that way.
Very nice. Final score 90-20. Good job, Naj. Naj making it. So at the end of round 4, we got Lucas and I are both 3-1s. Please, oh God, do not pair us round 5. And Nick is 4-0 going in undefeated to the final round. We're playing Data Scry, baby. Woo! It's the best mission. I love it. And round 5, I get paired. The path that I have taken this weekend to go what I went, I am going through a lot of the heavy hitters of the Northwest here. Losing to Trimble, beating Linton, playing into Chuck, and now I am playing into Zach Nelson, who is top 5 winningest players in the Pacific Northwest all time for sure. The dude wins a lot. And he's playing Dark Angels. Lucas, you want to run us down this particular Dark Angel list that I know Colin Sherman of BIFPOD OG had quite a hand in?
Sure. We got Azrael in there, the Chapter Master Lad with his 4-up Invuln Aura. We've got 2 Talon Masters. One got One has the Arbiter's Gaze. One has Rites of War. We got 5 Assault Intercessors. Man couldn't find 15 points. We've got 5 Infiltrators. Sorry. We've got 5 Infiltrators. And then we've got a Blade Guard Ancient with the Pendant of Remembrance. We've got 10 Deathwing Terminate. We got 10 Death Terminators. We got an Apothecary with Selfless Healer, 10 Black Knights, 2 squads of 3 attack bikes with them multi-meltas, and 2 of the janky special Cathedral Speeders with the Plasmas, the Line Speeder Vengeance.
Yes, indeed.
How'd this game go? Looks like a
game...
heavy on the Ravenwing.
Yeah, the man's likes Ravenwing. This is another game where I'm looking at the table and I'm looking at how he's deploying, and I'm like, man, if I go first, this game just ends. Because without an invul, those Black Knights are made of paper, and let me tell you, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill all of them. You're just not getting away from the bikes in that way, and we're going to hem him in, and we're not going to let him leave his DZ ever, and it's going to be great. And then I went second for the 4th time this event, which is how it goes. Blips do a really good job of telling that unit of Black Knights to piss off. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Blips are really stupid. I completely agree with that assessment. But anything that blips prevent from happening, if you're upset that blips aren't letting you do the thing that you want to do, the thing you were trying to do is stupider than blips. Because blips just say no alpha strikes, and your alpha strike is dumb. So Zach can chill in his own DZ. He runs a bunch of stuff around in circles. I forgot just how much output these Talon Masters have and let 1 squad of bikes get shot at because of the way that I've set up my terrain, and just gone. He literally doesn't even fire the second Vengeance. I think he fires the 2 Talon Masters, and then the first Vengeance fires, and it's shooting at 1 bike that's left, and just cool, dude. So these things definitely put out in terms of range firepower, and Talon Masters are still terrifying, but I don't really care. Secondaries wise, he took Engage, which was a choice. He took Prisoners, and he took Codex Warfare, which honestly props. Like, go for it, man. Oh, is Death on the Wind any good? Is that still a thing? Did they get rid of that?
Is that the zoom around score 15?
The Ravenwing secondary.
I think they got rid of
that
that because remember
gone.
each of the chapters has only 1 secondary now.
Gotcha. So they still have Stubborn. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think you probably should have taken Stubborn instead of Engage, but I digress. So yeah, we're playing Data Scryst. There's funny buttons to be involved. Marine players, your infiltrators against GSC go on your home field objective. That's where they go. I don't care. If you have 2 squads, you can put the second squad somewhere else, but the first squad goes on the home field objective when you're playing against GSC, because if you put them out in front to try to screen me, I kill them on turn 1, and then you're really sad and you're crying to me about how you don't have infiltrators anymore. Put them in the back. Don't let me bike them in the face. So we bike the infiltrators in the face and knock him off some objectives, hold him down to a 4. And then turn 2, we drop in. And again, we're trying to play this as conservatively as possible, trying to minimize my casualties while getting decent damage out. Zach swings down into like a hammer and anvil thing, and I say, I bet that sounds great. I would love to play hammer and anvil. Because other than the bikes, like the list is very slow because the list is very light on the ground. It's basically a couple of speeders, including some Talon Masters, and 10 Terminators and 10 bikes. I kill the attack bikes turn 1 and 2. Those units are gone, so he's not getting anywhere anymore. And then I drop in and kill the Knights because they're not that durable. Because Strength 6 +1 to wound wounds them on 2s. Bye. The Apothecary Filament Paint is nice, but it's not enough. So we swing into Hammer and Anvil. He's never getting me off of my 3 objectives, which is why I get 8-12-8 in terms of primary there. I'm hitting the button. I'm getting points out of it. I'm scoring my secondaries pretty well. I go a little easy on the behind just to sort of mitigate some of his other units coming in. Oh, I think I might have actually misscored. I might have 3 more behind than I have shown here. But yeah, we get our ambush points. We get an 8 on RBD. We never quite get one of the last quadrants because I'm just not interested in going over there and offering him slingshots and stuff. But we just keep shooting and killing and tagging and wrapping and charging and putting nonsense on objectives. This game is a pretty favored matchup. I'd say it works out quite well. I end up taking it 76-50. Overall good stuff. Wrapping up 4-1, feeling pretty darn good. Let's head into Lucas here, who gets to play into the boy Alex Pena, another rematch from Rosehammer. Lucas, why don't you, or Nick, how about you walk us through this list, and Lucas, tell us how it went.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. He is not elected to bring back the Triumph, and he's just going for some Bloody Rose good stuff again. We got Canoness with Blazing Eye or Ward of the Emperor. We got Celestine. We got Morven Vol with her Warlord trait. 5 Sisters, 5 Sacrosants with maces and a big spear. We got 2 Crusaders, 2 Death Cult Assassins, Dogmata with Beacon of Faith, and a Refrain of Blazing Piety. I don't remember which chant that is. We got a Repentia Superior. We got a squad of 9 Repentia, and then 2 squads of 5 Repentia, squad of 8 Zephyrim, 2 squads of 5 Zephyrim, 2 squads of 5 Rets with multi-meltas, and then a squad of 5 Rets with a combi melta and heavy flamers, and 2 Rhinos, starting on 3 CP.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. I think on Death and Zeal, it is really, or it makes it a lot less interesting, because any kind of control army versus any kind of pressure army on Death and Zeal is already not amazing. Not Death and Zeal. What am I saying? Data Scry Salvage is already not amazing for the control army, because there's so many objectives for the pressure army to attack. And every time you take an objective, you're rewarded with a whole bunch of points, both from the tertiary in your favor and taking away points from the opponent's primary. As we're going to see here. Oh, never mind. Maybe I'm trolling. I thought he had like next to no primary points, but I guess I'm totally wrong. Either way, I beat him somewhat soundly on the primary, and then just not a lot he can do to keep keep pace with my secondaries. Spent the whole game fighting on his 2 No Man's Land objectives, whereas my 2 were like more or less uncontested from turn 3 onward. So Good Bits finished easy peasy. Green Tide finished easy peasy. Got a couple of extra points by jumping onto his side of the board. And then, from there, just kind of locked down the game. I think Orc Sisters, especially since AOC has been gone, there's just not a lot they can do to trade effectively into you. Nothing they have survives contact with the Orcs at all. Even with like Miracle-like shenanigans, it needs to be like a weak Orc unit hitting one of the Sisters' characters for them to even have a chance of surviving. And even then, it can be unlikely. So it is definitely an Orcs favored matchup, and on Data Scry going first, it is I felt confident from minute 1 here. Alex is obviously a great player, and I need to be on my guard. I always enjoy playing against him, but I felt pretty confident about this one from the get-go, just because of mission and some of the factors that went into like going first and that kind of thing. Definitely an interesting game. I would never say this is like a we're going to be talking more about teams on the next couple shows leading up to Brood Wars. I would never call this like a very, very favored matchup. I think it's one that the Sisters can always keep close. Obviously, I give up plenty of kill secondaries, and all he needs to do is like stand on the objectives a couple times for a little bit of primary, and I can probably. I think it's a game Orcs almost always win, but they never win by a large margin. So that's kind of the result I drew from this, and I think my game into Alex at Rosehammer corroborates that conclusion pretty well. Good game, though. It was a lot of fun. It was cool to get down to the end of the game, and there was just like a couple cool badass Sisters characters running around, and all the Orc characters dueled them, and we kind of like traded blows back and forth. It was really fun. So good game to Alex.
Very cool. I see here you took behind. How did that shake out?
Yeah, it was interesting. An interesting play. It definitely for this deployment zone, it's a little bit better than when my Grey Knight opponent took it on the Scouring, which was trolling, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the idea is we spend the first couple turns missiling off trading units. So if he just like gets 5 Repentia to kill 3 pigs or 5 Stormboys or whatever, and then end up in my DZ, that's 3 points. So that's a great trade for him. And then once I flood onto his side of the board, he'll be able to like deep strike into my backfield or jump into it with Zephyr and that kind of thing. But I had enough Gretchen and 5-man squads that I was able to screen out my backfield for the entirety of the game. So I think he just got a 7 on it. Yeah. So he missiled off like some trading units on turns 1 and 2 to get behind, and then I just never let him in my DZ again. The rest of the fighting happened on his side of the board. Definitely an interesting idea, though. It was fun to see him experiment and try that out. It just didn't end up working this game.
Gotcha. Very cool. Nice. All right. Cool. And that brings us to our final game. And in some ways the finals of the tournament. Doesn't end up leading to a champion, but ends up being a really interesting undefeated game here. And that is for the third and final time. Stephen Trimble will be making another appearance on this program, this time playing into Nick. He's gone through me. He's gone through Lucas without much resistance. Let's see what Nick can do here with the Iron Hands going into the Templars. Why don't you break this one down for us, Nick?
Yep. So this is interesting going into the finals. My goal was to win this game just because I'd like to go undefeated. I knew I had to score basically 100 to win the tournament because the other match going on was Salamanders and Knights, and whoever wins that scores big because the Knights give up a lot of points. And if the Knights win, Knights have a lot of good secondaries. And I don't think Noah dropped below 97 on any of his wins. So my chances of winning the tournament are probably pretty low, but I don't want to go for a tournament win and throw the game. I'm fine with just playing the game normally and learning the data that I can from this. It's also data scry into a melee pressure, some pressure. It's Steve, so it's pressure. And if Steve goes first, it's going to be pretty difficult for me to get a lot of primary out of this game. I deploy pretty defensively. I take behind because it's data scry, and I also have speeders. I've got the pod. I've got the strat where I can throw infiltrators into reserves. I took RBD because that seems a lot safer than banners, and it's also got synergy with behind. And then I took bring it down because that's the easiest kill secondary he gives up. He has slightly more on assassinate, but chances are I'm probably not killing all of his characters. Yeah. Steve deploys on the line in the open and goes first, which is all right. If I went first, I pick up everything,
baby.
Everything I can see except the Terminators, I guess.
Ugh.
He does strat reserve a Reaper, which was very smart, because there wasn't really a super safe place to hide it, and also it coming in from angles means I have to protect these angles, which is nice. He somewhat screens out the pod in the back, but I'm able to find a hole. I'm not able to see the Desos without getting within Auspex range of them, though. And since they have Chapter Master, I really don't want to get Auspex by Desos. So I just elect to pod in, shoot a Reaper in the butt, and shoot a Brutalis in the butt, and throw some Grav as some infiltrators. The Reaper ends up getting to 1. The Dreadnought ends up getting to 3, but luckily I was I'm going to be outside of Melta, so I don't think I'm going to kill it. And I'll send in 5 Vanguard Vets to help clean up this Dreadnought. And the other Dreadnought that advanced towards me, I just kill with the Dreadnought and some shooting in my backfield. No, not the Dreadnought. Some shooting in my backfield. I'm able to have some super crack come out without exposing themselves to everything else. And the Dreadnought just looks at a Reaper that poked out to kill a speeder, and I spend a CP on Mercy's weakness and kill it. Yeah, this game is basically me just trying to stay outside of Terminator charge range the whole time, and also trying to mess with Devout Push, because Devout Push says it has to go towards the closest enemy unit or the closest objective you choose. So the Vanguard Vets killing the Brutalis kind of were trying to pull the Terminators backwards. I had some Eradicators show up later on that also tried to pull the Terminators to the side. I'm zooming around with speeders whenever he exposes his characters, and I managed to kill both the Judiciary and the Apothecary doing this, which is annoying for Steve because he took Oaths, which makes it harder now for him to have a unit wholly within 6 in the middle because he wants to spread those Terminators out as much as possible. Finally, on turn 4, this poor Master of the Feast, who's been killed and brought back to life twice already, gets brought back a 3rd time, and Steve lands an 8-inch charge on my home objective, but I'm screening my characters with Desos. He kills the Desos. I still hold the objective, though, because I'm OBSEC, and he isn't able to consolidate into them. He is able to stand on the objective, though, to deny a button push, which is annoying, and I just come out and point everything at these 5 Terminators, and I'm see you later, guys, and do manage to kill them. And at that point, Steve doesn't really have anything left. He just has Grimaldus and Helbrecht, and they're behind walls raising banners. So I fly over, gun down Grimaldus, and game's over at that point. So yeah, we definitely, behind was definitely a good call. We had a little bit of a sketchy RBD with some Vanguard Vets deep striking in and hoping to roll us, not a 6. But they deep struck in, rolled a 3, came over and took Steve's home objective. By that point, there was nothing left for them to charge, and the game ends 83-61. So great game to Steve, but yeah, Iron Hand shoot good.
Good stuff, man. Nick ending up getting some revenge for the boys. Really appreciate that. Take that man down a peg. And Nick finishes up in second place, but undefeated 5-0. I know you and Harry have talked about wanting to brawl it out later on. I think we both know how that goes. So good stuff overall. Yeah, very cool. I think that's closing thoughts. Let's start with you, Nick, because we're just talking about your games there. How are you feeling about Iron Hands right now? How are you feeling about the list going into teams? What are we thinking?
Well, I've already decided to swap over to Salamanders because they're unequivocally better since they won the tournament.
Gotcha. Yeah, firstborn Salamanders with the Imperial Knights sounds like a good call.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put in 4 rhinos instead of 3, though. I think the more rhinos, the better. If I were to continue playing Iron Hands, though, I definitely learned a lot about the secondaries, like what to take, what not to take. Oath is a lot easier than I thought. I always thought it was kind of sketchy, but there's a lot of games where I took like a kill secondary that I'd probably just take Oaths in now that I understand a bit more. Also Shock, kind of spooky. A lot easier if your opponent control. A lot of people don't come take objectives. Like you said, we played a lot of, especially it's mission dependent because we played a lot of missions this weekend where primary scoring is just so high that you being like, I'm going to get a 12 unless you come here. People are like, sure, dude, get a 12, get 0 on Shock. Like a lot of people did just run into it, but I'm like, I saw points where I'm like, they could definitely not. Like Steve took Shock in the last game and I didn't stand on objectives near him and he got a 4. So like, and it was taking back one of like the objectives on his side of the board from me. So yeah, it was pretty goofy. Yeah, it was all right. There's some fun stuff in the list. There's some, good stuff in the list. I probably wouldn't be playing them if it wasn't for teams and, interested in shooting some people with this Dreadnought. The Dreadnought's really fun. Not for your opponent, but it's very funny pointing at something and being like, see you later, dude. There's not a lot of nuance with it. It is just apply brick to head. So yeah. Yeah.
We appreciate the sacrifices you're making for the team.
I mean, I don't know if it's sacrifices. I'm still defeating people. I still like winning games.
The tragedy of going 5-0. How really take one for the team there. But yeah, very good stuff. Cool beans. How about you, Lucas? How are you feeling about Orcs in their spot right now after this event? I know we got BAO coming up. Nick's not going to make it that. He's going to do a practice weekend instead. But we got some serious singles play in addition to the teams coming up. How are we feeling about the boys, knowing that the Desolators are out there?
Pretty good. I'm playing some lists right now that kind of switch up the archetype a little bit, move entirely away from kill rigs and entirely into some anti-line of sight tech, which is mostly just take as many battle wagons and trucks as possible, have as many seats as possible for Storm Boys, and they can just launch out of there, tag Desolators. The one weakness of the Iron Hand Desolators is they can't fall back and shoot. So if you can manage to get to grips with them in one turn, then you're usually good to go. It's just a matter of getting there, and that's why the transports serve Orcs very well. The weakness is that list is a lot less mobile than the rigs. Rigs are a lot faster than battle wagons, and while their transport capacity is less flexible and smaller, it still carries an effective unit and is much better in combat. So overall, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I do think rigs are a lot better in player place, and I'm probably just going to try to use combat tricks and tagging to defeat Space Marines and acknowledge that it's probably a very unfavored matchup if I go up into a lot of Desolators. So it just is what it is. Feeling okay about Orcs other than those indirect matchups. I think I have a very good shot at winning into a lot of the top armies right now. Or at least it's within striking distance. So in all likelihood, I will be sticking with just this triple rig list for BAO. It'll also be great practice for the teams event because I will very likely be taking it to teams as well. So yeah, good stuff overall.
Very cool. Very cool. Over in GSC World, I am having a lot of fun playing all sorts of stuff. Lithurus is coming up with new stuff every day. It feels like that's always fun to play with. I'm experimenting with a couple things here and there. I'm playing with some NIDs as well. High Fleet Behemoth is really funny. Tail end of the edition is definitely the time to try out some wacky nonsense. So we'll see where I end up landing on all of that. But yeah, overall, excellent event. Big props to our boy Harry for finally bagging one. For those of y'all who didn't hear any of the announcements or any of the riffraff that we got thrown at us for letting this dude win the tournament, Harry is our boy. He's been an important part of the Pacific Northwest community for a while. He's been playing the same bullshit for as long as any of us can remember. No one knows when the last time he bought a model was. He's playing with firstborn Space Marines that he painted in like 1987, I think. And he made it happen. So big props to our boy Harry for bagging a big one with Stern Guard and Tactical Marines and Rhinos. It's the Games Workshop dream that he's living. Sweet. Anything else you guys want to comment on before we sign off for the week?
Nada.
No, fantastic. Well, a couple of plugs real quick. If you're joining us on YouTube or would like to be joining us on YouTube, we do go live every Saturday morning around 10 a.m. That subscription down there is the best way to show us and Games Workshop that you like what we're doing here. We also love getting reviews and whatnot on various places. If you like our silly little icons, we sell shirts. We're in one of our shirts right now, finally. It's one of the Nick Hail to the King shirts. I love the shirt. Nick is, of course, almost the king this week, but he is more often than most other people, so got to rep that. Also, Necrons are cool. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find us on our Discord, which you can access through patreon.com/bestintabletop or through the YouTube members option stuff. Check out the bit reps that we've got going up. Lucas and I have a really fun GSC versus Chaos Knights game that we just filmed yesterday. That'll be going up hopefully later this week. That's real good. I think that's most of the plugs. Hope to see y'all at some of the upcoming events. We've got a couple of really fun things figured out for what's coming up soon, but we'll see that when it comes. But with all that said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
I'm still Lucas.
And we'll see you next time for a little bit of fun. Why not? Love this, Jeff. Take care, everyone.